his mouth agape. I only played PvP and didn't pay attention to the game's plot. But this is too chaotic. He was a little scared. But then he thought, aren't I avoiding it? Or maybe I should go all out. As soon as he thought of it, he moved the mouse to the notification bar. Do you want to fight the Black Dragon? Please select yes or no. Without any delay, he chose yes. Let's fight while it's hot. I will show off the skills I have honed over the past 10 years, the main character shouted loudly. A brief introduction to the character Beck Isel. This is a strange creature in the game, the only one who cannot use skills. Although in this game, everyone can perform fire dances as if it's natural. Even the veterans don't bother to look at this useless character. To be blunt, this character is even weaker than a side character, but it still has a little bit of magic, but only one single skill. Back to the battle. The Black Demon is cosplaying a fire-breathing dragon, accumulating a super large fireball in its mouth. Immediately after, it opened its mouth wide and spat out the power ball. The ball shot towards Beck Isel with lightning speed. Faced with this life-or-death situation, Beck Isel remained calm and composed. Then he smirked contemptuously, as if you're any match for me. He immediately transformed, using his pro-level flash skill, rushed forward to slash the dragon's neck, and continued to flash, and flash. Beck Isel's flash spell allows him to move to another location within a range of 3 to 10 meters, as fast as lightning. But the problem is, the flash location is random, so if not calculated correctly, he would die instantly due to the terrifying speed and impact force. Moreover, the cooldown time and mana consumption are also difficult to handle, and he is also frozen for 2 seconds after using the skill. Therefore, although anyone can learn it, few are foolish enough to use it. However, Beck Isel is a strange case. He has mastered this flash skill. Not only that, he can also control the direction and distance of the teleportation. Even more impressive, he also knows how to dodge penalties. This skill does not cost a single drop of mana. And the character Beck Isel doesn't have a mana stat to consume. Unlike other spells, Flash is actually just a simple movement skill. But I became obsessed with this character since everything was based on skill level. So for the past 10 years, I've only played one character who doesn't use magic in combat. At this point, Beck Isel had rushed forward and slashed a long line across the face of the Black Demon King. Not only that, he also decisively cut the Demon King in half. He's definitely not an ordinary person. Immediately after, he stood majestically, like a descended god. A notification appeared. You have defeated the final boss, the 13th Dark Moon. In reality, the main character couldn't help but be surprised and exclaimed, "What the fuck? What? I killed the final boss, the Black Demon King. I know I've equipped rare artifacts from head to toe, but this is still a useless character. It's a miracle. But anyway, it's amazing. I have to show off to the online community that I just killed the Black Dragon." Before he could even flex, his computer displayed a bunch of red notifications, as tangled as a mess of thread, because you have reached the error ending where 90% of the mythical world is destroyed. However, you have come very close to the true ending. Looking at these notifications, the main character exclaimed in astonishment, "Holy crap, what's going on?" Before his brain could process it, another notification appeared. Please proceed to the true ending. At this point, he was screaming in confusion, "What is this?" And then, our main character inexplicably vanished right in his own room. As soon as he opened his eyes, he was greeted by a completely unfamiliar scene. The main character was now lying face down on the ground. He struggled to sit up, his head spinning like a pinwheel, confusedly holding his head and sighing. What just happened? His body suddenly trembled. He looked around and exclaimed, "Where am I?" Suddenly, a dazzling light caught his attention. Immediately after, he realized it was a mirror. He approached, brought his face close to the mirror, and then, what the hell? His current appearance made him unable to believe his own eyes. A familiar face that has been with him for more than 10 years. That is Beck Isel. But before he could understand anything, a notification appeared in front of him. Episode 1. Escape from the Chase. The main character suddenly realized, isn't this Beck Isel's newbie quest? He couldn't believe what was happening. Unbelievable. Am I dreaming? At this moment, He reached into his pants pocket and grabbed something. The thing that made him freeze for 5 seconds was the Stella Academy admission certificate. And by now, even if he didn't want to admit it, Beck Isel could automatically guess where he was. This is definitely the mythical world, so from now on I will be Beck Isel. Thinking of this, he covered his face, unable to cry. But I need to think more logically. That voice told me to go to the true ending. But with my knowledge, this game doesn't have a true ending. It has countless possible endings. At this moment, his eyes suddenly became panicked, as he thought, wait, is it possible that no one has been able to unlock the true ending in the past 10 years? Damn it, but I don't have time to think anymore. If I remember correctly, right after Beck Isel woke up, the black demons also chased him and rushed into the house. Thinking of this, he quickly rushed to the window to secretly observe. In front of him was a group of people dressed in identical black clothes. Under the snowy rain, they frantically searched for him and shouted, "Damn it, where did that brat run to?" Seeing this scene, the main character was so scared that he hid behind the door. He peeked out and thought to himself, how stupid, they're already here. Meanwhile, outside, a white-eyed man discovered something. Then he pointed to a house in the distance and shouted, "Hey guys, there's a house over there, let's go search it!" As soon as he finished speaking, the whole group replied in unison, yes. Realizing the important problem at hand that needed to be dealt with immediately, he was worried and didn't know what to do. He remembered that there was a time limit for him to avoid them, but I can't fight them alone. While he was at a loss for what to do, the system suddenly appeared, you can use Flash. Faced with this suggestion, the main character was confused. Huh? I can use Flash? Born with a body suffering from mana leak syndrome, Beck Isel, a person who cannot accumulate mana, can only place his hopes on one thing. And that is the spell he has spent his entire life practicing. Back to the present, outside, snow was falling incessantly, covering the entire forest in white. Inside this old house, Beck Isel was still constantly thinking about the system's suggestion. But currently his Flash skill is only at level 0. The maximum allowed distance is 9 meters. At this moment, he was extremely confused. This damn system is telling me to use Flash? But I'm not sitting in front of a computer screen and mouse playing a game, so how do I flash? Outside, the members of the Black Demon cult were running like crazy towards the house. The sound of footsteps getting closer and closer made the main character even more panicked. Damn it. They're here. I have to act now. There's no time left. Damn it, I'll risk it all with you guys. On this side, as soon as they arrived, they discovered something. Their eyes filled with anger. One of them shouted, "Boss, I found that bastard, chase him. Bring him back to me alive." They crazily chased after him, shouting loudly, "Stop! Don't let him escape! Catch him!" And the main character was running for his life in front. This is also the first challenge of the tutorial. Use Flash to lose the pursuers. As he ran, he thought, they're wearing magic shoes, so they're faster than me. So the only way for me to escape is to use Flash. Calm down. I've used it countless times. So of course I have to know how to time it correctly. At this moment, they were right behind him, shouting, "Hey, you brat, won't you stop?" Looking back, he also realized this. Damn it, they've caught up. But the truth is, there is a weakness to Flash. If the user does not control the distance well, they will collide with other objects and die instantly. But if it were me, things would be different. Beck Isel thought to himself as he ran. At the same time, the leader of the Black Demons had caught up to him. He raised his sword and roared, "Let me send you to hell. Die, you dog." In that life or death moment, when he was on the verge of life and death, he used his Flash skill to escape. He just thought happily, "Great, I succeeded." Leaving the Black Demons dumbfounded, Nani, "What was that, Flash? Is that brat also a mage?" Seeing his foolish comrades losing their composure, the leader turned back to reassure them. "Don't be discouraged. Flash has a weakness. The user will be paralyzed for about 2 seconds. So this is our chance to act." Speaking of which, he turned his face to look at Beck Isel and was so shocked that he couldn't believe his eyes. Damn it. Wait, how is that kid still moving? On this side, Beck was still running for his life. While running, he also encouraged himself. "Be careful. I have to be more careful. Come on. I have to use the rough terrain here to escape." If any player couldn't learn how to use Flash at this point, There was only one way out: death. In fact, 99% of players who chose Beck Usiel could not complete the tutorial. As for the remaining 1%, although they passed the tutorial, they could not grasp how to control the distance of the flash and the continuous flash. Thinking of this, he frantically used flash and then flashed again, moving from one position to another. This made the members of the Black Demon cult extremely impressed. He dares to use flash on such terrain. Is this kid crazy? Then he turned to his comrades and said, "Those who can use magic, go to the front. We will attack him from a distance." As soon as he finished speaking, 3 people volunteered to stand at the top, their faces full of killing intent. Noticing that they were no longer following him, the main character glanced back. Another worry appeared in his mind. It's over. Are they going to use magic? And the second part of the tutorial is to use flash to dodge magic arrows. Damn it, when I play the game, I can see what's behind me through the screen, so it's not difficult to dodge them. Suddenly, the system displayed a notification that the Mana Leak Syndrome skill was activated. Mana Leak Syndrome disables the 6th sense skill and accelerates perception. As soon as he received the notification, Beck Usiel suddenly felt the sword auras approaching him, even though he didn't need to look back. And just like that, he could easily dodge these sword auras. At the same time, a huge dark aura rushed towards him. Beck Usiel suddenly realized that this was the time to use his flash skill. In the end, he was lucky to escape this fatal attack and the seals of the Acristum Shodes of the Covid Lodge. A deafening explosion sounded like a meteorite falling to Earth. Its pressure was so strong that Beck Usiel could no longer stand and had to sit down and use his hands to support himself. At this time, the smoke and dust from the explosion gradually dissipated, but the remnants it left behind was a huge crater. Only then did Beck Usiel come to his senses and think, "Damn it, I almost died." But now is not the time to rest, and so he continued to run for his life. Suddenly, his eyes became extremely terrified. In front of him was a bottomless abyss. If he slipped and fell, he would surely meet his ancestors. And this is also the third challenge of the tutorial, using flash to cross the abyss. He suddenly thought, perhaps the only way to get to the other side is to accurately calculate the flash distance. Then I'll meet a few mages passing by and escape. That's also the end of the tutorial. And to pass this part, I have to dispel the flash spell, which activates in 0.1 seconds. But failure, even once, means death. There are about 28 floating rocks here, and with only 0.11 seconds, it's easier said than done. I really don't know which bastard wrote the script for this tutorial. It's so sinister. However, this is not impossible. The problem lies in. Thinking of this, suddenly the voice of the Black Demon cult members shouted, "There he is, right in front of us." At the same time, their group had caught up to this point. The main character was startled and turned his head to think. The pursuers are closer than I thought. The distance between me and them is probably about 100 meters. And the cooldown of flash is 3 seconds. So I don't have enough time to get to the other side. So I only have one choice left, to kill them all. Then Beck Usiel also sat down and hid behind a tree to plan his battle. He suddenly thought, it's crazy. Why did I dare to think I could handle it when I just finished a fight? If this were a game, the system wouldn't allow these followers. But this is reality. There's no law that says you have to blindly follow the game's system. Killing someone who is not worth my concern. The reason is not because these people are the enemies of my parents like in the game's plot. Finally they arrived. Beck Usiel held his sword tightly in defense, his face full of determination. "Come on, you guys, come here, I can take you all on." And just a few seconds later, they had caught up to Beck Usiel's position. He still seemed quite angry, his face red as he shouted, "It's him! It's this brat! Catch this brat for me!" As soon as he finished speaking, the whole group shouted in agreement and rushed forward, each of them looking quite furious on this side. Beck Usiel remained quite calm without any hesitation. "This kid's got some guts?" One of the Black Demons sneered and thought, "You dare to fight us alone? How foolish. You're finished, you little brat." As the main character was still concentrating on observing to make an accurate judgment, he suddenly realized that the distance to the target was about 87 meters. Immediately after, he showed off his flash skill and rushed towards him. The man in black probably didn't even have time to understand what was happening before he was about to die. The leader standing next to him also had to widen his eyes in surprise. But Beck Isel's face at this moment was full of determination, and he couldn't hold back. The speed was so fast and dangerous that the man in black spat out a large mouthful of blood. It shot directly at Beck Isel, looking at the fresh blood flowing gently on each fingertip. But at this moment, Beck Isel didn't feel any guilt at all. And if they didn't die, perhaps he would be the one to die. He had to kill them all to survive. Thinking of this, he slashed him hard, then he crazily kicked him to vent his anger. It looked quite gentle, but he was thrown back towards the group of black demons. This made them even more furious. And on this side, after taking down one of them, he immediately ran away, perhaps because his flash also needed time to recover, so he couldn't risk his life at this moment. And the black demons also realized that he was running away, and shouted angrily, "Damn it! He's running! Don't let him escape at all costs!" Beck Isel ran and thought, "I just took down one, but it won't be this easy next time. But what should I do? What the heck? Why is it so quiet behind me? Are they not chasing me anymore?" As soon as he thought of this, they were already standing in front of him without him knowing. But now there's no time for him to run away, he suddenly thought. No. Are they using magic again if I dodge? Those bastards. And on this side, the leader of the black demons was opening his mouth to order his underlings, "Do it." As soon as he finished speaking, a strange magic appeared. Immediately after, it headed straight for Beck Isel's position. Only a huge spark shot straight at him. Beck Isel was extremely tense at this moment. And it wasn't just one spark. There were many fire arrows shooting straight at him. Faced with this situation, he didn't know how to escape. He could only curse inwardly in anger. Damn it! That damn spell! Oh right, I have a way. In front of him now appeared a branch growing out of a rock crevice. In this life-or-death situation, he used his flash skill to rush towards that branch. And then a big explosion happened right after. Boom, boom, boom. After the explosion, a large crater was formed, with dust flying all around. On this side, one of the black demons seemed quite pleased and smirked. Serves that worthless brat right. But his joy was short-lived as he suddenly realized there was no body in the crater in front of him. He was quite surprised and muttered, "Where did he go?" While he was confused, Beck Isel had not only escaped their magic, but was also using his flash skill to rush towards this boss. Only when he suddenly realized it, Beck Isel was already right in front of him. The two of them just stared at each other. The ultimate flash skill requires equal momentum before and after use. Without any further hesitation, he flashed again and slashed him hard. At this moment, only the sound of a desperate scream echoed far away. Witnessing this scene shocked the entire group of black demons. What the hell is going on? Without stopping, Beck Isel pushed the sword deeper through this person, causing him to vomit blood and die instantly. At this point, they still didn't understand where this kid got this powerful magic from and why he became so brutal. And after dealing with two of them, he seemed to be tired. His body covered in blood as he thought, now two of them are down. But I have to hurry before they recover. The scarred face man spoke. A monster. His reaction speed is too strange for a mage. Who are you? After hearing this, Beck Isel thought to himself, my reaction speed must be superior to all other players. But that's only in this game. I can't dodge their attacks forever, especially at this distance. I have to quickly deal with all of them. Thinking of this, he also risked his life and rushed forward to attack. The scarred-faced man who had been observing all this time exclaimed, I've figured out your movements. This kid can only use flash and daggers. I just need to protect my face and neck. He can't touch me. So he held his sword defensively with a provocative attitude. Come on, come on. Then he shouted, Ice Tide. While on this side, Beck Isel was still showing off his amazing flash skills. At the same time, on this side, he was releasing a powerful force towards him. He was quite confident in his strategy and thought, Haha, I'm about to catch you. Now let's see how you writhe in pain. But his satisfaction was short-lived, as he was shocked to the core. Not only was Beck Isel unharmed, he also quickly rushed towards the scarred-faced man's accomplice and slashed him. Witnessing this scene made the scarred-faced man's hair stand on end as he trembled and exclaimed, damn it, you used to just hide like a little mouse and now you dare to fight back. The main character, covered in blood, replied coldly, yes, but that was the old me. Anyway, I have to thank you for helping me get stronger day by day. After hearing this, he replied angrily, you damn dog. That's only because we went easy on you. Now die. As soon as he finished speaking, Beck Usol's powerful footsteps approached. His face was now full of killing intent, looking extremely fierce. Then he quickly threw a spear at him. Looking at the spear approaching him, he guessed in his heart, Flash aims for an undefended spot. He must be planning to throw the spear so I have to block it and then ambush me from behind. Dream on, don't even think about it. Thinking of this, the spear also approached his face. This guy just gently swung his sword and cut the spear in half. Then he smiled triumphantly and thought, and now I just need to turn around and give him one shot and it's over. But it seems his judgment was wrong. Suddenly he stood there dumbfounded and weakly exclaimed. Then he gritted his teeth, his face contorted in pain. At this moment, Beck Usol didn't attack from behind as he had guessed, but attacked him directly from the front. He used all his strength to pierce through his heart in amazement. The scarred-faced man still refused to give up and weakly roared, damn, he was planning to attack from the front all along? And so, Chapter 1, Escape from the Chase, is complete. After killing all of them, the system displayed a notification. You have received additional experience, a gift from the Constellatio project for developing a unique story. And the main character at this moment seemed quite tired and collapsed. His breathing became rapid and heavy, panting. He looked down at his bloody hands and then looked around. Like many other transmigrated characters, at first, they only thought it was a dream. But no, it's all real. This is not a dream. The main character remembers the moment of fighting for survival that just took place here. That was the first time using Flash in this world. Also the first battle, and moreover, this was also the first time killing someone. The truth is, I killed people to survive. A moment later, the main character slowly stood up. He raised his hand to brush the dust off his clothes. Looking at the road ahead, the main character told himself, anyway, I've transmigrated here. I have to leave this place quickly. Suddenly a thought appeared in his mind, and he turned to look at the people he had just defeated. At this moment, he was still quite hesitant. His eyes filled with a touch of sadness, but then he bent down and fumbled through their pockets, checking them thoughtfully. Although this may be a bit cowardly, I have to be realistic. Right now I don't have a single penny. After a while of searching, he finally found a bag of sparkling gold coins. He was secretly happy. This must be about 2 million won. Better than nothing. In every misfortune, there is a blessing. But his joy was short-lived, as he began to worry about another problem. He looked at the road ahead with a sense of dread. Ahead was a deep abyss. If he accidentally slipped and fell, he would be dead for sure. Standing on the brink of life and death, he thought in confusion. How do I cross this cliff? Suddenly, from the other side of the cliff, a loud voice called out, Is anyone there? He immediately looked up. Seeing the main character still standing there in a daze, the group of people waved their hands and called out again. Hey! This way! We're over here! He realized that the group of people was the group of mages that appeared in the tutorial. Immediately after, he shouted like crazy, I'm here! I'm here! On this end, someone replied, but there's no bridge nearby. Can you get across? Yes, I'm on my way, the main character replied. Receiving his signal, the girl turned to the others and said, Then let's wait for him a bit, because he said he can cross. The blue-haired boy standing next to him still hesitated and said, But crossing this cliff is not a simple matter. He must be at least a third-class knight to have a chance. Can that young man do it? She replied. Well, I'm not sure either. As she said this, her eyes suddenly widened in surprise. He is jumping from rock to rock with ease and skill. The whole group was dumbfounded by this scene. Everyone watched nervously. Maugmurt the view is 200 and tween. Many people that offices and reflected deventry active sashways. Even where, as fast as a flash of lightning, he had already passed the halfway point. The whole group watching this scene couldn't believe their eyes and exclaimed, What kind of skill is this? A type of jumping magic? Someone replied, That's Flash. That voice came from a blue-haired girl standing behind. The little girl looked quite pretty and cute. The purple-haired girl turned to look at the little girl and then looked back at the main character in confusion. Is that Flash? But Flash can't be so easily controlled in terms of direction and distance. This is quite impossible. He looks so graceful and skilled. Outsiders saw it that way, but the main character was actually struggling. Suddenly, she saw something and was so startled that her eyes widened as she stammered, "Who are those two? Are they with this boy?" At this moment, on the other side, two men in black were approaching the cliff. On this side, everyone was still confused when a person on the other side started using a magic staff to create an orange source of power that radiated around. Immediately after, he pointed his hand forward to form a strange magic formation, and then it shot straight at the main character. Suddenly, a voice shouted, "Hey, be careful behind you." At that moment, the main character also felt the terrifying power rushing towards him and cursed inwardly. Damn it, this is bad. As it rushed closer, he immediately used his flash magic to move to another place, and luckily escaped with his life. Only a huge explosion could be seen behind him. He turned his head to see who was ambushing him. The smoke and dust from the explosion dissipated, and the figures of two men in black appeared. He suddenly thought, so it's the mercenaries from before. They've been revived. This is too dangerous. And the cooldown of Flash is still 3 seconds. It's impossible to dodge all of that magic. I have to find another floating rock to stand on. Thinking of this, his eyes suddenly became panicked. What the heck? What is that? It turns out that the black demons couldn't escape easily. They immediately activated a magic spell and shot it straight at him. Luckily for Beck, he managed to lean to one side to dodge the blast. But life is not like a dream. As soon as he dodged, the rock under his feet cracked and split in two. He struggled to stand firm but failed. He fell backwards into the void. Yet the will to survive still burned. He still struggled desperately on the brink of life and death, telling himself, "I must live, I must live." But life is not like a dream. The floating rocks seemed to be teasing him. They were so far away. A glimmer of hope remained. Just wishing to land on one of them would be enough. And then, as if the universe heard his plea, his eyes lit up when he saw a nearby rock. It seems his fate is not yet sealed. Heaven still has mercy on him. Without a moment's hesitation, he immediately cast a flash spell, launching himself like an arrow towards the rock. His efforts were not in vain. His hand had managed to grab onto the edge of the rock. His hands were now like a vice, gripping tightly onto the hope of survival. He glanced back, his voice trembling. Did I survive? The joy was short-lived. Before he could even breathe a sigh of relief, from behind, a huge orange energy blast, just looking at it, screamed SOS, was roaring towards him. A desperate thought flashed through his mind. Or maybe I'll die here, just as death was about to claim him. When our main character was ready to meet his end, a sudden flash of turquoise energy appeared like a savior. Immediately after, the two energy blasts collided, creating a massive explosion. Boom, boom, boom. The shockwave was so powerful it felt like it would tear space apart. He had to use all his strength to hold on. Then, as is often the case, after the rain comes the sun. When the smoke and dust gradually dissipated, the main character was still intact. That's how the main character's aura should be. Usually, the main character can't die so quickly. His head still ringing, he dazedly wondered, what was that magic just now? An ice spear wrapped in lightning. Hello, who is so pro that they can mix two skills into one powerful attack. And they even calculated the trajectory perfectly, without a single drop of mana wasted. Which master could unleash such a perfect ultimate skill? Looking into the distance, the remaining members of the Black Demon cult were all staring at a slender figure with blue hair, standing in the center of attention. Her beautiful face remained as cold as ice, without a trace of emotion. Witnessing the performance just now, everyone's face turned pale with fear. One of them stammered, "Damn, it's impossible. How could she do something so extraordinary?" The two mercenaries on the other side of the battlefield, seeing that this was a losing battle, decided to give up. They were still too young and inexperienced, so they quietly transformed and disappeared. The main character watched the backs of those straw hat heroes and let out a sigh of relief. Phew. Thank God I'm still alive. After a while, The young man finally landed safely on the other side and was warmly welcomed by everyone. Only the cool, blue-haired girl ignored him, turning away without a single glance. Seeing his savior, the main character quickly ran after her, chirping, "Hey there, thank you for saving me." The female warrior glanced at him, her voice still as cold as ice. "I didn't do it to receive any gratitude, so you don't need to pay attention to it and thank me." As soon as she finished speaking, she turned away coldly. The main character froze for 5 seconds, then muttered, "Ah, okay." Watching her arrogant back, he once again fell into a stream of thought. This girl is so interesting. I've never heard such a cute voice before. Although it seems this girl is quite difficult to approach. But whatever. The important thing is that the bandits who ravaged and plundered the villagers have paid the price. The truth is, most of these village raids are the work of the Black Demon cult. Fortunately, this nightmare also ends here. That was a close call. Truly a life-or-death situation. But passing this god-forsaken cliff, it's as if I've set foot in the land of mages. Even if the Black Demon cult grew wings, it would be difficult for them to follow me here. Thinking of this, he let out a sigh of relief and secretly thought to himself, "And those dogs don't even know who I am." Suddenly, ding ding, the system announced a new notification, Chapter 2, Admission to Stella Academy. Looking at the brand new quest board, he couldn't help but be surprised. This is Chapter 2. Wow, that doesn't sound too bad. But seriously, how am I going to go through school at this age? And so the whole group got on the bus and headed straight for Stella Academy. Night fell, and the road they traveled became increasingly deserted and strangely quiet. Only the steady clatter of the horse-drawn carriage wheels lulled them to sleep. Inside the carriage, perhaps exhausted after a day of life-and-death trends, the main character was sleeping like a log. Suddenly he let out a few muffled groans in his sleep. His mind drifted into the realm of memories, and fragments of the past began to return one by one. Appearing before his eyes was the image of a chubby little boy, tugging at his mother's sleeve, his voice chirping, "Mommy, Mommy." And the mother gently replied, "My dear son, when you grow up, you will become a mage. I believe you can do it, my dear." He remembered, flipping through his mother's old diaries. He realized how much his parents had struggled and sacrificed to raise him. At that time, the little boy promised himself, "I have to study hard to make my parents proud." Long nights spent poring over books, then falling asleep without realizing it. There was always a mother's gentle hand tucking him in with a warm blanket. The stream of memories suddenly rushed back, replaying a day when the mother received news from the doctor. She was extremely bewildered and exclaimed, "Doctor, did you just say that my son has Manhwa syndrome?" The little boy himself also collapsed at that time. "I can't believe the cruel truth. No, it's impossible." As soon as he finished speaking, tears welled up in his eyes. But was this Beck Isel's memory, or just fragments of his own past? The stream of consciousness was suddenly cut off, and the main character woke up with a start. His head was spinning a little, and he unconsciously put his hands on his head. Glancing out the window, he saw that dawn had broken, and the sun was beginning to shine through. Noticing that the main character was awake, a fellow passenger asked, "Ah, you're awake? It seems you just had a nightmare. You were saying something I couldn't understand at all. I was about to wake you up then." At this moment, a voice from outside called in, "We are about to depart for La Georgia, the satellite city of Arcanium." The car slowly came to a stop, and another voice said, "Let's stop here for a short break." The group quickly moved out of the car to get some fresh air. His body was a little tired, and the main character stretched his arms refreshingly. Suddenly he was a little surprised, his eyes wide as he looked in one direction. Coincidentally, the blue-haired girl was staring at him without blinking. At that moment, he was about to raise his hand to greet her politely. But before he could say anything, she coldly turned away. This action made him feel a little embarrassed. He could only force a smile, thinking to himself that this person was really cool. However, things are still going pretty well compared to his previous worries. He was secretly glad that this timeline was closer to the modern era than the distant medieval times. Magic still exists in this mythical world, but in safe cities, trains, airships, and celestial roads are all built to last. And to make the long journey even more relaxing, the group will travel to La Georgia on an ultra-modern airship. La Georgia is on the route to Arcanium. In Arcanium, the so-called capital of magic, everything truly begins. Mysterious magic towers, solemn mage conferences, and 5 prestigious academies are all located in Arcanium. The academy with the most powerful mages and the top students is Stella Academy. Therefore, Stella is a gathering place for countless geniuses and nobles from all over the world. However, the main character still couldn't understand why Beck Usiol, the person he was possessing, could set foot in this prestigious school. I almost forgot. You haven't even checked your own skills yet. Thinking of this, he quickly opened the system to check, and immediately, the status board appeared clearly. Mana Leak Syndrome Level 1. Strength increased by 3%, speed increased by 5%, agility increased by 10%. Sixth Sense consumes the user's mental power to activate mana detection within a 12-meter radius. Acceleration Wave. Looking at the status board, he also silently thanked the abilities that Beck Usiol possessed. Sixth Sense and Acceleration Wave. If it weren't for these two, you probably would have been gone a long time ago. In this game, a cursed force cannot concentrate mana in the body. Mana Leak Syndrome is a curse from heaven that Beck Usiol has to bear. However, in every misfortune there is a blessing. This allows him to sense the mana around him through his sixth sense. Number 18 Hins. It also helps him detect any attack aimed at him, even if he can't see it. And the Acceleration Wave allows him to perceive everything as if time is in slow motion. If there is danger or a surprise attack, he will react faster than a normal person can perceive. It's a must-have skill for Beck Usiol because he can't use mana. But everything has its price. Using the sixth sense for too long will consume a lot of mental power. Therefore, if overused, it can lead to many unforeseen consequences later. Reading this, the main character moved on to the statistics section. Name, Beck Usiol. Status, Strength, 1 star 59%. Agility, 1 star 97%. Speed, 1 star 81%. Stable Stamina, 1 star 51%. Endurance, 0 star 97%. Mental Power, 1 star 43%. Remaining Mana 0. Skills. Flash Level 0. Mana Leak Syndrome Trait Level 1. After studying the information, he suddenly thought, actually, the starting stats aren't that bad. The original Beck Usiol had very low agility, but in his hands it would be different. He was determined to push this. In this game world, there is not only one type of level, but also levels for each individual stat. Skills are displayed as levels, while stats are displayed as stars. The highest stat level is 9 stars, but achieving this level is as difficult as climbing to the sky. He has been playing this game for over 10 years, but the highest level he has achieved is only 8 stars in both stable stamina and agility. But now, he should focus on investing in agility to buff his sixth sense and reaction speed. He can improve his stable stamina and flexibility in various ways. That's the gist of it. But the current dilemma is the Mana Leak Syndrome. If not for this, he wouldn't last long. He needs to level it up to quickly reach the secret of his true form. And Stella Academy is the key to suppressing that syndrome. He has no other way out if he wants to turn the tables on the ending of this world and cure his chronic illness. Thinking of this, the main character sighed wearily. Phew. Actually, I don't really care about it. Someone please save me from this predicament. Suddenly, the system blared. You have missed some important notification, he exclaimed in surprise. Huh, I've never seen this before. But before he could check, an urgent voice called out, Hey guys, let's go. The main character had no choice but to put aside those notifications to check later. The blue-haired girl was still staring at him intently, but she remained silent with a cold expression. In front of them was a huge airship, floating in the air, looking both modern and cool. On the boat, everyone seemed excited and expectant. Suddenly, a voice announced over the loudspeaker, Attention, we are about to arrive at Arcanium. Please remain seated. At this moment, a certain guy saw something and was extremely surprised. Immediately after, he used a sarcastic tone to mock. Hey guys, look at that guy, looking around like a country bumpkin who just came to the city. He's probably never been on an airship before. Ha ha. Following their gaze, the main character being referred to was none other than Beck Isel. At this moment, he was looking around in a daze. Everything here was unfamiliar to him. They continued to gossip. That guy must be from the countryside. He looks as dazed as a cow wearing a bow. Tsk. I don't understand why Stella accepts these commoners. At this point, the main character also heard those sarcastic remarks directed at him, and he immediately looked up. They still didn't stop, and continued to sneer. If this gets out, it'll be so embarrassing. A few guys like him are enough to tarnish the reputation of this academy. He still looked at them, but then he didn't bother to argue with their taunts. He just sighed and turned away. His reaction made the other guy a little embarrassed. At this moment, he thought to himself, a bunch of brats. I'm an adult. I won't stoop to their level. And it was his indifferent attitude that made the young master angry. He shouted, "Hey, you brat! How dare you look at us like that? Are you tired of living?" He gritted his teeth and continued, "You little brat! You stand right there." Suddenly, a gentle voice spoke, "Hey, what are you guys making a fuss about?" The other guy was startled and quickly turned to look in the direction of the voice. Then his eyes widened in surprise. In the distance, the figure of a girl with long, flowing hair could be seen. Immediately after, he trembled and exclaimed, "Princess Beyon." The main character heard this and also turned to look, thinking to himself, did he say Beyon? Following his gaze, in front of everyone was a princess with a beauty that could topple cities. Her aura was cold and arrogant to the extreme. And this is the princess of the Adalabit kingdom, Beyon Adalabit. She said nothing more and coldly walked past the group of people. When he saw the princess walking past him, the other guy quickly put on a fake smile and placed his hand on his chest to greet her politely, "Your Highness." Before he could say anything more, the princess glanced at him with a sharp look like a knife, then ignored him and walked straight ahead. This made him feel extremely embarrassed, his mouth agape, unable to say a word. She just coldly walked inside, leaving the whole group staring at each other in a daze, their mood plummeting. And on this side, she had walked past the main character. He suddenly realized that she was the sworn enemy of this world. According to the script, Hong Beyon is a key character in the game. She and the female lead were always at odds, but in the end, she was the one who died. No matter which route you choose, she is always brutally dealt with in most endings, or she has to commit suicide because she is ostracized by the entire academy. She had to go through the most embarrassing things in front of everyone, as if the developer had a grudge against her and wanted her to taste the bitterness of life. At this moment, he suddenly fell into deep thought. I've heard that she is very famous among male gamers. Indeed, her beauty is not ordinary. But she's too cold. It's as if she would send me to my ancestors if I dared to strike up a conversation with her. Suddenly, his stomach rumbled, and he immediately put his hand on it and rubbed it. His pressing problem now is to fill his empty stomach first. As soon as he stepped onto the second floor at a certain stall, countless sparkling pastries of all colors were displayed before his eyes. He randomly picked one, but as soon as he held it in his hand, his face turned as green as a banana leaf. He thought to himself, "Oh my God, why is it so bitter?" But then he had no choice but to close his eyes and eat to fill his stomach first. After eating, the main character walked out with a dazed expression like a lost fawn. He thought dejectedly, "Damn it, is it always this expensive to eat in Arcanium? It's really over. It's really over." At this moment, the announcement on the loudspeaker sounded again. "Hello. Hello. Urgent announcement to everyone. We will arrive in Arcanium in 10 minutes. Please, everyone be present on the ground floor. I repeat, we will arrive at Arcanium in 10 minutes. Please, everyone be present on the ground floor. Thank you for your cooperation." After hearing this, the main character smiled and thought, finally, it's time. Anyway, this is my reality now. Thinking of this, he excitedly shouted, "Let's party, everyone." A moment later, the whole group had arrived at Stella Academy. Looking at the unfamiliar crowd here, he felt a little out of place. Then, he took a deep breath. Fortunately, I've dealt with the immediate problem. The members of the demon cult won't be able to follow me anymore. But can I survive in this god-forsaken place? No, surviving in this world is very difficult. I wish I had some kind of treasure to save me in this situation. Thinking of this, he suddenly remembered the system notifications he had missed before. He immediately opened the system to check. The notification content was as follows. The Star Project would like to give you a special reward. One is the weapon you used in the game with a lower level. Second is the skill you received in the game with lower power. Third is experience. Looking at the status line, he thoughtfully considered, oh, it seems this system is quite reasonable. But let's see, what should I choose? Should I take the reflector or the lightning brows? And this system seemed to be able to read Beck Usial's thoughts and immediately gave an answer. According to the search results, the level of the equipment is too high, so it will be nerfed to a lower level. What about Super Space Flash? According to the search results, this skill is an upgraded version of Flash, so it cannot be obtained. However, you can use the reward to enhance the Flash skill. After reading it, he froze for 5 seconds, cursing the rigid system in his mind. Damn it! Do I really have to downgrade? Seeing him complaining, the system explained, due to a lack of narrative energy, we cannot fully realize it. Hey, what's that? The thing that affects the development of the story is called narrative energy. If you continue to explore the hidden plot points of the story, it will accumulate. So in a short period of time, you can't let me possess overpowered items because I'm just a newbie. He waited anxiously for the system's answer. Seeing no response, he asked again, what about the bulbul glasses? Based on the system's results, we have concluded that it can be provided. Based on the system's results, we conclude that it can be provided. Okay then. I'll take it. As soon as he finished speaking, the system immediately tossed him the bulbul glasses. Then he held the glasses in his hand, examining them. He thought wearily, I never imagined there would be a day I'd have to wear this ridiculous thing. Note, bulbul glasses are an item that stores all the information a player has collected while grinding the game. In the world of mythology, recalling or reading information about monsters you've defeated or knowledge you've acquired is impossible. Therefore, players have created countless information-storing items in their own style, and the main character is no exception. He uses the bulbul glasses to store information. He excitedly put on the glasses to test them. At that moment, a mystical blue light emanated from them. Immediately after, a notification appeared. Bulbul glasses tier 0 description. Cannot remember last night's dinner. No problem, because these glasses will save the details of everything you have ever seen and learned. Special feature. Sealed Kestrel folder. Uses mental energy to activate. He then opened another folder to look. After that, the system displayed another notification. Ingredients for alchemy. Hunting grounds. Dungeons. Characters. Reading this far, he felt quite satisfied, because this place was exactly like the real world. So he was at a loss for words about what he could do using the system. But with these glasses, I can recover about half of the power I've used. Suddenly, there was a whisper from behind. Hey, isn't that Isel? Oh, you mean the eldest daughter of the traitor Dutch Malth? My God, how dare she show her face here? Shh. Keep it down. She'll hear you. The main character heard a familiar name in the story and felt a bit curious. Isel. Now that you mention it, one of the bulbul glasses' ultimate features is allowing me to register or check information on characters in the storyline. Let me check her out. Immediately after, an information panel appeared.
Molth, her father's death caused her family to go into a steep decline.
The outcome was death. After reading this information, the main character thought to himself, oh, so she's a fake hero. To talk about Isel, a fake hero, there's one point I must expose. Although the place I'm staying is in a mythological game world, the truth is, this mythological world is inspired by a romance novel called Don't Love the Princess. And that novel tells the story of the heroine Isel, who lost all her relatives. She grew up in suffering by confronting the schemes of the main villain, Beyon, and the ending was her having a happy ending with the male lead. In the end, her revenge plan nearly went up in smoke, and other male characters chivalrously stepped in to protect her. It had a gut-wrenchingly sad ending after receiving countless criticisms from readers. The thorny issue here is that although the game world is based on the novel, the plot is completely different. In the game, a character named Flame was added and simultaneously usurped the role of the heroine. Furthermore, this character Flame has a unique and non-derivative storyline. She was once an ordinary woman in the modern world who was addicted to reading the novel Don't Love the Princess, and then was unexpectedly reincarnated into this world. So unlike in the novel, Isel becomes a fake heroine in the game, while Flame rises to become the true hero. And no matter how much the gamers tried to help her, she could never pass any route. This is the consequence of her being kicked out of the true hero position. But what does that have to do with anyone? But it's strange. I don't know if I'm just delusional about my own power, but I feel like I've seen her somewhere before. But it's probably just my imagination. Now's the time to hold my head high and face this harsh reality. After a long, stormy day, a new day dawned, with brilliant rays of sunlight shining all over Stella Academy. Inside, the students had put on their uniforms and were standing in neat rows to listen to a speech. At this moment, the headmaster began to speak. As you all know, dark magicians are wizards who have devoured the power of other worlds and transformed into monsters. Even now, those dark magicians continue their invasion plots by opening persona gates or unleashing ancient dungeons to swallow the magical world. And our mission as sorcerers is to be the shield that protects the world from these evil forces. Hearing this, whispers started among the students below, starting a semester with a speech as dull as dishwater like this. That's right, it's boring as hell. Meanwhile, the speech continued. And next, we will have the oath-taking ceremony for the 4 students with the highest scores, who will also represent the new students. Now, please come up to the front. Right after that, the bright faces stepped forward one by one. These were all handsome boys and beautiful girls, with handsome features and faces as radiant as the dawn. Perfect! It's him! The headmaster's voice rang out again. Representing all the new students present here, Ma Yu-song, please come up to speak. The headmaster's voice rang out again. Representing all the new students present here, Ma Yu-seong, please come up to speak. At this moment, all the fangirls below looked on with admiration. Oh my God, is he the one with the highest entrance score? How can someone be both an academic genius and so handsome? Beck Yusel followed along and nodded in agreement. So this is the famous Ma Yu-seong? Note, in this game, Ma Yu-song is the living embodiment of the saying, "In heaven and on earth, I alone am the honored one." With a 9-star mana index, possessing divine potential, he is a genius among geniuses, one who can control all elements in the world. Even if I can't make it to the grand finale, I still need to avoid catastrophic endings by pulling Ma Yu-song to the side of justice. However, that pretty short-haired girl might be the Flame, right? The male lead began to rack his brain, but it depends on how she'll play her cards from now on. Because she's also a fellow transmigrator who came here like me, perhaps joining forces with her isn't a bad idea. But would things become more complicated if she saw me as an arch-nemesis and I got sidelined? But I have the home field advantage with information, so I shouldn't act rashly and mess anything up. The Flame is a die-hard fan of romance fantasy novels, while the male lead is a veteran gamer in this fantasy game. I promise, I swear I will do that, even though my influence in the plot is nothing compared to a minor villain in a shop. Moreover, the heroine has a special ability that allows her to purify dark mages. But ironically, she also has the ability to bring bad luck to those close to her. Lingering near her will definitely affect me. My role is to remotely support the main characters and minimize any entanglement with them. At this thought, the school heartthrob's speech concluded, and everyone below gradually applauded in approval. The principal's voice rang out, "So I declare that we will officially conclude today's matriculation ceremony here." Immediately after attending the matriculation ceremony, Beck Yusel's system displayed a hot notification. Congratulations on successfully completing the mission to join Stella Academy. After the opening ceremony concluded, all students gathered in a certain lecture hall. Each person freely chose a seat to their liking. The male lead seemed rather melancholic at this moment, thinking to himself, I graduated from university ages ago, and now suddenly I'm a high school student again. It's an indescribable feeling of strangeness. But there's something pretty cool about this place. Then he held the watch in his hand, pondering. That is, having this one is pretty good. This is a Stella watch. It verifies that you are a student of the legendary Stella Academy. If you possess it, you will receive privileges and services far superior to other mages. At this thought, he happily put the watch carefully into his pants pocket. Hey, I must seize this golden opportunity. At this moment, someone opened the door and entered. A man with a stern face walked in and stepped onto the podium, saying loudly, I request all of you to maintain order in the class. We will begin the test now, so please put away all items except those used for writing. If anyone is wearing glasses, they must be inspected by me first. They just started school and they're already testing. That's intense. Stella Academy's curriculum is more rigorous than most other universities in Korea. Students have to take an exam on their very first day of admission. It's called a placement test, meaning this test will evaluate and assign students to different classes. After distributing the test papers to all the students, the teacher returned to the podium and announced loudly, Attention students, you have 45 minutes to complete the exam. Time starts now. Please focus on your work. And someone who had experienced this program a very, very long time ago, seemingly having returned what was taught, like the male lead, saw this exam question and was fed up to the neck. His face drenched in sweat, he thought, Oh my God, I don't even understand what I'm reading. So how am I supposed to do this? It's really unmanageable. The placement test had nothing to do with the entrance exam. It was notorious for its incredibly high difficulty. Students are divided into levels from F to A and S based on their exam scores. And naturally, most of the prominent characters belong to Class S. Ironically, Beck was at the bottom of the list among 1,141 students. The male lead looked at the exam paper, indecisive like a young girl. Should I just turn in a blank sheet to get it over with? I've already been admitted anyway, so I probably won't get expelled. I'll just consider myself volunteering for the F class. He glanced around, and it seemed everyone was engrossed in their exams. Only Ma Yu-seong sat leisurely, resting his chin on his hand, lost in thought. The male lead looked at himself with a sense of utter disappointment. He's already finished? Could it be that he's already solved everything? No wonder he's so bored with life. In this game, Ma Yu-seong's character is as boring as a cockroach. He was born into the most powerful family on the continent, possessing a genius mind and top-tier talent. Everything was incredibly easy for him. So, depending on the female lead's actions, Ma Yu-seong will either lean towards good or fall into evil. All those from the demonic cult who want to destroy humanity are extremely interested in him. And from the very beginning, the most pressing issue was his family. But still, looking at a genius makes me reevaluate myself, he suddenly realized. Oh, wait. Why am I so foolish? I can use the bulbul glasses. I used it to accumulate skills learned in the library. Maybe it will actually be useful to me right now. What's there to lose anyway? Let's give it a try. Thinking just as he was about to put on the glasses, the invigilator, seeming suspicious of his behavior, approached him and said, Wait, is there something wrong with your glasses? I said if you're going to use glasses, you have to let me check them first. Let me see. At this moment, the male lead suddenly remembered, muttering to himself, Ah yes, damn it, I completely forgot about this. Then he handed the glasses to the teacher. Holding the glasses in his hand, he meticulously examined them. Meanwhile, the male lead had gone pale, sweat beading on his forehead, thinking, Oh no, what am I going to do? If these are exposed as magic glasses, I'm done for. At this moment, he looked up, secretly praying to the heavens and Buddha to help him through this calamity. Suddenly the damn system popped up a notification. A lost component of the bulbul glasses has been detected. Do you wish to summon it? This made the male lead piss himself in fear. No, please stay put, system. Meanwhile, the invigilator was still using his magic to authenticate the glasses. After fumbling for a while and finding nothing unusual, he returned them to the male lead and said, I don't detect any mana here, but next time, remember to ask for permission first. The male lead breathed a sigh of relief, as if a huge burden had been lifted, and happily replied, Ah, yes, sir, I will remember that. At the same time, he secretly rejoiced as if he had found gold. Damn, if the original feature was active, I'd be screwed. Then he put on the glasses, looking much more intellectual. Immediately after, the answer to each question appeared clearly in his mind. Based on that, he copied furiously, thinking smugly, I've hit the jackpot. Maybe I'll even come in first place. With this performance, I'll definitely escape F class, maybe even make it to A class, right? While he was engrossed in copying, the teacher's voice rang out. Time for the exam is over. Please stop writing and submit your papers. No sooner had he finished speaking than the invigilator used magic to collect the test papers from the examinees. No one could force themselves to write another word at this point. Seeing the exam papers flying towards the teacher, the male lead's face distorted, thinking, hold on. I only managed to solve 3 questions. At this moment, in the teacher's hand, was a stack of exam papers from the students. The teacher quickly scanned through the students' papers. Suddenly his eyes widened in surprise. Meanwhile, Beck Isel was still at maximum level of disappointment, thinking, I thought I finally escaped F class. Damn, this might be too much for this Isel fellow. Then he reached up and took off his glasses. Suddenly, the teacher noticed something unusual, turned to him in a panic and shouted, Hey, student, give me your glasses immediately. The male lead, hearing this, felt his hair stand on end and stammered, Yes, yes. The teacher held the glasses in his hand, deep in thought. Strange it can't be. Then he turned to him and said, Hey, you, call Dr. Beyon for me right away. Upon hearing this, he replied, Yes, sir. But inside, he was utterly bewildered. What's wrong with the teacher all of a sudden? I even wrote meticulously to avoid being suspected of cheating, didn't I? Oh no, am I exposed? A moment later, in the doctor's office, the teacher's anxious voice rang out. Doctor, what do you think? The person holding the glasses and studying them was Professor Magic Weapon, Dr. Graham. He replied, The fact that the boy handled this question is indeed problematic. The teacher quickly asked, So did he cheat? The doctor immediately replied, Cheat? He is completely innocent. I didn't detect any magical energy from the glasses or any other item. He definitely relied on his own abilities. The male lead also feigned innocence, putting on an extremely wronged expression. The doctor chuckled with amusement and patted his shoulder, continuing, Haha, this is truly interesting. I never expected to encounter such a case at the end of my life. Anyway, Professor Lee Han-wol, please remember to apologize and guide him further. The teacher at this moment was a little embarrassed, replying, Ah, yes, sir. Then he turned to look at him and said, I misunderstood you. Please accept my sincere apology. Upon hearing this, the male lead smiled with narrowed eyes and thought, Actually, I did cheat, teacher. But if the original feature was working, I'd be done for then, he replied to the teacher. It's nothing, teacher. A moment later, in Professor Lee Han-wol's office, the teachers were gathered here to grade the exams. Grading a certain student's exam made the teacher stunned. He held the paper in his hand and stared at it for a long time. The teacher himself seemed unable to believe his eyes at this student's work. Suddenly, someone called out, Oh, Professor Lee Han-wol, are these the first-year students' exams? Lee Han-wol replied, Yes, sir. The woman then happily added, I heard there are many outstanding students this year, aren't there? And this woman was a member of Stella Academy's Council of Elders, Professor Adele Taimian. Lee Han-wol replied, That's right, ma'am. There are quite a few outstanding students this year, from the most prestigious family in the fire magic world, Princess Hong Beyon of the Adolabit Kingdom. And there's also the successor to the Scalvin Empire at just 12 years old, thanks to his magical talent, Jeremy Scalvin, the prince who surpassed all his brothers in the struggle for the throne. And from the most magnificent magic tower in the world, the Full Moon Tower, this year's successor to the Tower Master Haewon Riang, has also joined our academy. Upon hearing this, Professor Edel Taimin approvingly remarked, Oh, I heard that setting exam questions for elite students from prestigious families is quite a challenge, isn't it? This year will surely have some tricky questions. Professor Lee replied, As long as the elder is pleased, I am content. But as Professor Edel Taimin said, this year's exam had a new format. The first 3 questions were extremely difficult to answer with only mediocre academic ability. All three questions were riddles with deep underlying meaning. Testing quick wit. If a student is stuck anyway, do they quickly move on to the next question? Secondly, how will students cope with a problem they have never encountered in textbooks? The era of rote learning magic with abstract theories is outdated. Now is the era of practical application, requiring quick assessment and groundbreaking creative thinking. However, that question did not require an answer, and over 1,000 out of 1,141 students submitted blank papers. The remaining 100 students desperately tried to find the answer, but not a single one provided the correct solution. Among the new students, only a mere 3 answered correctly. That was Ma Yu-sung, the genius of the century, who appeared like a shooting star, but no one knew which family he came from. The second was Flame, who was introduced to the school by the principal despite being a commoner, but her talent was widely recognized, just slightly less than Ma Yu-sung. Finally, there was Bakia, an unknown and insignificant character. Ma Yu-sung and Flame are considered geniuses, so there's no arguing that. But this kid, Beckio, had a dismal entrance score, yet incredibly, he managed to perfectly solve all 3 difficult questions, especially since he left all the other questions blank without even glancing at them. The professor standing next to him saw Professor Lee deep in thought about something and curiously asked, "What's wrong? You seem interested in the children's scores, don't you?" Professor Lee replied, perplexed. "Ah, well, I just can't understand the scores of some of the students," she continued. "Oh, this is understandable. After all, those formulas don't solve anything. If the kids don't know it, you can still handle it." "But do you think this child is a genius?" Professor Lee asked. The senior nonchalantly replied, "It could just be a stroke of luck." With that, she turned and left, leaving Professor Lee standing there in a daze. He felt incredibly confused and sighed, then looked for his admission file. On the file, there was a note stating, "Special selection due to highly evaluated teleportation control ability." Seeing this, Professor Lee had no choice but to accept this harsh reality, thinking, so it's different when the principal himself favors and recruits them. Truly impressive. But he's studying combat magic, yet specializes in teleportation? That's interesting. But we'll soon find out if this is a coincidence or if this child is truly special. After receiving the students' exam results, the school used them to categorize students into separate classes. At this moment, everyone was eager to see which class they were placed in. I only heard voices asking each other. I heard the class placement results are posted on the bulletin board. I'm dying of suspense. My mom said if I don't get into Class A, I shouldn't even bother showing my face at home. The male lead trudged behind, thinking dejectedly, "Unbelievable. There's actually a day when I have to personally go check my class placement results. If it were back in the day, I'd just click a mouse once and it'd be over." At this thought, he also approached the bulletin board. At this moment, a boy in a blue shirt kept staring at him as if he were an alien. Then came the whispers behind him. "Is that Beck I.O.? I heard he got a goose egg on the practical magic section of the entrance exam." "Really? I can't believe it. How could such a terrible student get into Stella? I don't understand Stella's admission standards anymore." The male lead completely disregarded the whispers around him. All he cared about at that moment was finding his name. Everything else was irrelevant. He moved closer to the announcement board. His eyes scanned quickly, and he seemed quite confused. Where's my name?" Then he was shocked to his core, thinking, could it be that I failed because I only answered 3 questions? Oh my God, no way, I'm really screwed. While he was wallowing in deep disappointment, his friends continued their cross-continental gossip. "Beckio, how could he? There must be some mistake, that's unreal." Uzlek of the Marquis Chekbalin family, ranked 29th, got into Class A. Even Kyle, who scored perfectly in theory and ranked 17th, was placed in Class A, so how about him? Seeing the group call out his name and being so secretive, the male lead became quite curious. Worry was clearly etched on his face. What's going on? Should I go and see? I failed anyway. Ending his train of thought, he decided to move towards the crowd to eavesdrop. Suddenly, his eyes widened in surprise as his name caught his eye. Dufta, why is my name there? Is there some mistake? What the hell is this? The pinnacle of prestige that every student yearns to reach is nothing other than S-Class. where the most outstanding elites of the renowned Stella Academy gather. Completely different from regular classes where students have diverse skill levels, S class only selects a mere 41 students, and all belong to a single tier. He unconsciously raised his hand to scratch his head, full of doubt. I got placed in S class? There must be some mistake. This is crazy. So now I'll be encountering the main characters of this game more often? And getting involved with the main characters just further reduces my lifespan. I can't even change this, so I guess I'll just try to lay low for now. Everything will eventually work out. Outside, the academy still maintained its usual peaceful demeanor. However, in a hidden corner, a woman was absolutely furious, slapping Princess Beyon across the face as if struck by lightning. Then she frowned and shouted, "You answered all 3 questions incorrectly. Even Princess Isel of the declining Malf Duchy got 2 answers right. That woman was none other than Hong Yil, the fire element professor and mother of Princess Beyon." She continued to berate her. "You couldn't even answer correctly the questions that even insects could do. That means you are even lower than an insect. You should re-examine yourself. Do you understand, Beyon?" The frail girl replied, "Yes, mother." The mother's anger had not subsided, her sharp eyes fixed on her daughter. Then she sighed again, her voice choked with emotion. "Listen to me, Beyon. You cannot become like me, someone expelled from the kingdom and holding this foolish professorship. You must not become a disgrace to the kingdom." Saying this, she bent down, gently placed her hands on her little daughter's cheeks, and her voice softened. "You must become a better being than your older sister." Then she gave a gentle smile, like any other mother, looking tenderly at her child. "You understand what I mean, right?" Beyon's cheeks were flushed. She thought for a moment, then spoke to her mother. "Of course, I understand, mother." But deep down, she was lying to herself. Those words were uttered only to conceal the truth that she understood nothing. She only knew how to live according to what she was taught, solving everything mechanically. But this time, those problems included magic, spells, and even formulas that she herself had never learned. So what should I do? At this thought, bitterness welled up, and she burst into tears. Tears just kept flowing. Why are you tormenting me like this?" At the same time, in the S-class classroom, all the students had gathered. The male lead sat alone at the top desk, dejectedly covering his face and thinking, "I'm screwed. Of course, I'd be transferred to a place full of weirdos like this. And it's not like I'm trying to befriend them, right?" Suddenly, whispers filled the air. "Why is he here?" "That's what I'm talking about. I can't understand it at all. Do you know, our family protested and asked why he was in S-class. And he just said Beck Usul has enough qualifications to be in S-class. Seriously? That's really strange, isn't it?" Although the others were whispering, the male lead could still hear their conversation. He thought forlornly, "It seems I'm the one being discarded." But that's understandable, given that they've diligently trained since childhood, so they'd be devastated to know someone like me is in the same class as them. One's class can change depending on their academic performance, so this is normal. And even this S-class is no exception. It's possible for someone to be demoted to a lower class, or there could also be male students who are promoted from A class to S class later on. Well, I'll find them to talk to later then. The male lead looked around, seeing only familiar faces from the game. Yet by some miracle, he became classmates with them, which made him ponder, all of this is truly miraculous. The characters from the game are now standing in front of me. In a few years, most of the students in this class will become famous across the continent, and 5 of them also have the potential to betray the Magic Council. Ma Yusong was also one of them. If Flame could stop that from the beginning, how great that would be. Suddenly, Professor Lee entered and said, "Hello everyone, please quickly take your seats." Hearing the somewhat familiar voice, the male lead turned his head to look at the podium. At this moment, the powerful professor was speaking. "I am very pleased to meet you all. I'm sure some of you have seen me before, but I will still introduce myself as usual. I am the S-class professor, Lee Hanwal." Upon hearing this, the students below began to whisper and murmur among themselves. One person spoke up. "Oh, so that's the famous Professor Lee Hanwal?" The person next to him immediately replied, "The number of dark mages he's hunted has almost reached 4 digits. That's really savage. They even call him a level 7 magic warrior. He's truly on another level, to help him in toppering with them closing of gaseous duty. Seeing the students in awe and murmuring, Professor Lee spoke up to remind them, "All right, everyone, settle down. This year, it seems there are many talented students here, and there's also a specially admitted student. As you all know, this academy is where we cultivate battle mages, also known as magic warriors. You will experience a rigorous educational environment for 3 years. I expect all of you to keep up with the curriculum. I want all of you to show me the best of your abilities during your time here at the school. So, does anyone have any questions now?" In response to the teacher's question, the whole class remained silent. The teacher smiled and continued, "Good. Then let's begin the lesson." At this very moment, from outside the door, Princess Bejon's silhouette entered. Seeing her with a bruised face on one cheek, everyone couldn't help but be surprised. And the male lead was no exception. He thought in surprise, Beyon, who always abides by the rules more than anyone else, can be late? Is something wrong with her? She approached the teacher, mumbled an apology, and said something. Her face showed signs of fatigue and disappointment. The male lead, curious, took out his glasses to check. As soon as he put them on, an information panel appeared. Beyon, fire mage villain, likes red ginseng candy. Occasionally blames herself, only drinks Akalia-style espresso, has an evil mother fated to die. After reading it, he suddenly thought, not much has changed. Her fate is set to die. But if Isel dies by flame, then Beyon will also die. You can consider it the inevitable fate of a villain. I would save her if I could, but I'm not in a position to save anyone. This thought, he felt a brief pang of sadness and took off his glasses. After hearing the girl explain her tardiness, the teacher spoke up. "You should find a seat." Meanwhile, the male lead was still sighing sadly, thinking, "I feel pretty bad, but I can only keep my distance." Then he just drifted along with his thoughts. Suddenly, Beyon approached his seat. Her eyes, filled with resentment and sorrow, looked at him. As for him, he still couldn't understand what was happening. Immediately after, Beyon sat down right next to him. The male lead flinched, thinking confusedly, what's this? What am I feeling right now? Could it be that everything has been distorted from the very beginning? Once everyone had settled in their seats, the teacher spoke. "So before we begin the lesson, we will have an inheritance ceremony for you to receive your wands. Class S and Class A will hold the ceremony together, and I will provide further details later." Beck heard this and was a bit confused. Inheritance ceremony? That sounds quite troublesome, doesn't it? But then he smiled, eagerly anticipating the day of the event. At Stella Academy, there are 2 major events, the Soulmate Covenant and the Inheritance Ceremony. For an academy of Stella's caliber, the Inheritance Ceremony holds a particularly special place. A moment later, students from S class and A class gathered in a somewhat mystical place. Professor Lee spoke up. "Is everyone here yet?" Many magic wands, from the lowest to intermediate ranks, are prepared here. What you need to do is go to the wand you like and take it. The process of changing wands once you've chosen is very complicated, so I hope you all choose carefully. Beck all heard this and suddenly thought, although he said that, we are not the ones who choose the wand, but something else. In the world of Azer, wands only respond to those they recognize, creating a resonance effect. It also means you cannot use a high-level wand just because you want to. At this thought, he also moved closer to the magic wands hovering in the air. He looked around, extremely hesitant, not knowing which one he should choose. He just stood there in a daze, thinking, if it were before, I would have quickly chosen an F-rank wand. But since I'm in S-class now, I can't just pick any random one and let them keep looking down on me. Suddenly, a rather simple wand caught his eye. In this world, magic wands are primarily divided into 2 forms, wands and staves. Wands are typically the choice of knights, those who prioritize the speed of spellcasting. Conversely, staves are favored by bishops, who focus on powerful attacks that require longer incantation times. Suddenly behind him, whispers broke out. Hey, which one do you think he'll choose? Another person said, since he's in S-class, he probably won't have any trouble with resonance, right? At this moment, The male lead seemed to realize that the person they were targeting was himself. But then he ignored everything and thought, "You kids can say whatever you want. I don't give a damn. It's too tiring." Suddenly, someone from behind called out to him, "Hey, guy!" He was confused, not knowing who was calling his name, and turned around. Seeing this unfamiliar face, he immediately asked, "What's wrong? And who are you?" The guy, with a somewhat arrogant look, replied, "Me? I'm Uselek." Isel heard this, but still couldn't remember who he was, thinking, "He's probably just some minor character. This is the first time I've heard this name. Well, I'll just answer it and get it over with." Then he nonchalantly replied, "Oh, is that so? I see." Uselek stood with his arms crossed and continued, "Which wand are you going to choose?" He casually replied, "I'll just pick a random one." Upon hearing this, he sneered sarcastically, "You'd better choose a wand that suits your commoner status. Don't try to climb too high or you'll fall hard and then you'll cause trouble for Professor Lee." Oh my god, buddy. The male lead's face right now is like, "You think I'm scared of you, huh?" He ignored it, turned and walked away, not forgetting to add sarcastically, "Oh, all right, you don't cause any trouble either." Seeing his taunting attitude, he became even more furious, blood rushing to his head, his face turning bright red. Immediately after, he seemed to go mad and yelled, "Damn it, you bastard, do you want to fight?" How annoying. The male lead had wanted to ignore him, but this brat still wanted to provoke. He sighed in exasperation, then took the spectacles from his pocket and put them on. At this moment, the boy's information appeared right before his eyes. Name, Uselek Chekbalin, son of Marquis Biolend, subordinate of Prince Jeremy. Bullying level B. After reading it, he took off his glasses and put them away, thinking with a touch of disappointment, "That's terrible. Is this all the information there is?" Then he looked up at him, sighing heavily, and thought to himself, "Is there anything special about him?" Uselek immediately pointed towards a magic wand and pompously said, "Anyway, I'm going to choose that one, so watch carefully." Following his finger, he saw it was a magic wand, and not just any wand, but an Edmuri Etamiri. It seems to be the highest ranked here, a high-grade medium wand. Normally, a high-grade medium magic wand is typically used by professional mages. On the other hand, no matter how talented you are, a low-grade medium wand is already the limit for a student. Even professional mages rarely use a low-rank medium magic wand. Apart from the Edmuri Etamiri, there are no other high-rank medium wands here. It's mainly here for display. Everyone knows no student here can acquire it. At this moment, the teacher spoke up again. "You should stand in front of the wand you like." Upon hearing this, the students, one by one, approached the wands. Immediately after, green lights radiated all around. Everyone behind gasped in admiration. Wow, isn't the wand that Hai Wan Riang chose Hayden Amikotten? That's a medium-rank wand. Prince Scalvin also chose a medium-rank wand over there. Looking at the scene around him, Beck Usil also spoke up. Princess Hong Beyon chose Suavider La Havan, which is also a medium-rank wand. How many people can even choose a medium-rank wand? This year is truly insane. Uselek, even more furious now, gritted his teeth and angrily said, "Damn it. Just wait, I can do it too." No sooner had he finished speaking than he resolved to walk straight towards the wand in front of him. He walked amidst the astonishment of everyone around him. Sounds of panic all around. Isn't that Uselek? Can he resonate with a high-grade medium wand? Meanwhile, the main character mentioned in the story was still incredibly proud. He extended his hand close to a certain medium-grade magic wand. He smirked. "I'm going to show you guys. Watch and see what a real S-class talent looks like." Then he gripped the wand tightly, immediately generating small electric sparks around it. Immediately after, there was a loud boom, boom, boom. Its immense pressure radiated powerfully, dazzling everyone around. And this didn't overly surprise the male lead, who thought with his eyes half closed, just as I predicted, he failed. At this moment, he was thrown far back by the power radiating from the magic wand, lying flat on the ground, grinding his teeth in unwilling defeat. The students standing nearby, witnessing this scene, cried out in panic. Oh no, it seems he's seriously injured. Hey, someone call the professor quickly. A high-grade medium wand is impossible. Which crazy guy is this reckless? The male lead just sighed and thought, well, little buddy, who's the one climbing high and falling hard now? From the beginning, it would have been better for him to give up on this idea because, at this thought, the silhouette of a student moved towards the wand. He seemed quite confident, walking and whistling. So the owner of that wand has already been decided, and this confident person is none other than Ma Yu-song. He stood looking quite intently at the wand in front of him. Then he flashed a smug smile. It seemed he was quite pleased with his decision at this moment. But before this action, the surrounding students surprisingly exclaimed, "Oh my, is he going to take the staff? I don't think he can resonate with it." Ignoring the whispers around him, Bayu-sung coldly reached out and touched it. He gripped it tightly, and immediately it emitted a dazzling light all around, and he could still stand still, completely unaffected. Its oppressive power was so strong that everyone around had to raise their hands to shield their eyes. As expected, Ma Yu-song could resonate with it. Holding the magic wand in his hand, he gave a bright smile. His image at that moment was incredibly radiant. The students around still couldn't believe what they were seeing and exclaimed, "Unbelievable, it's impossible. How can a first-year student acquire a high-grade medium staff? My God, can this really happen?" The male lead was not overly surprised, sighing as he thought, "I already guessed it, and from now on more people will know how talented he is." Suddenly, Ma Yu-song glanced in his direction. This made the male lead quite confused, not understanding what he was looking at. Then Ma Yu-song smiled so friendly that his eyes narrowed. The male lead felt a chill at this moment, his hair standing on end as he thought, "Damn it, is he crazy? Why is he laughing like that?" But he suddenly remembered the plot of this game. Flame also possesses another high-grade medium staff, Teravan. However, this is where their paths diverge. If Flame successfully obtains Teravan, Yu-song will be interested in her because of her talent, opening up Ma Yu-song's path. But if she chooses a different staff, Ma Yu-song will choose a completely different path. I must use Flame to attract Ma Yu-song. At this thought, the male lead also found Flame. She was approaching a certain magic wand. She seemed still quite hesitant and indecisive. At this moment, the male lead also recognized it as the Teravan. He nervously fixed his gaze on it. Flame was now approaching the Teravan wand even closer. Watching her back, the male lead told himself, "That's right, take it. Then Ma Yu-song will be curious about Flame, and we will have a beautiful, perfect ending." But ironically, when she got close to the Teravan, she suddenly turned around and left. This made him so shocked, he almost vomited blood. "What the heck? What the hell, Mom? Doesn't she like Teravan? What's going on? Doesn't she know? Or does she not have enough information?" The situation seems to be unstable. Flame can resonate with any staff because she is the main character. But what if she chooses a strange staff instead? Then we've lost another good option. No, I have to act now. I have to push Teravan towards Flame. At this thought, he focused on Flame's exact position and used his teleportation skill to rush towards her. Quick as a flash, he was behind her. Suddenly, Flame felt someone standing right behind her. She immediately turned around, bewildered, thinking, "Damn it, when did he get behind me?" Beck Yusol raised his hand and smiled friendly. "Hello, hello, nice to meet you." "Oh, I was just curious which staff you were going to choose," Flame replied, puzzled. "Why do you want to know? Does it concern you?" The male lead awkwardly replied, I just wanted to give you a little advice because you seem a bit confused." Hearing his nonsensical answer, Flame coldly replied, "That's not your business. If you have nothing else, I'm leaving." With that, she turned and walked away. Seeing this, he was about to say something. Wait a minute. When he suddenly realized something was off. Flame should be friendly with everyone. She's a sociable person, right? But why is she so cold? But I can't give up like this. My whole life depends on it. At this thought, he mustered all his courage and called out, "Hey, wait! I really just want to help you." At this moment, Flame became even more annoyed and retorted, "You gossipy woman, worry about yourself first. You haven't even chosen one for yourself and you're busy meddling in others' affairs." But the male lead was not discouraged. He continued, "Hey, but I feel like there's a staff that would suit you perfectly." Flame, upon hearing this, angrily shouted, "Are you trying to lecture me? What the hell do you know about staffs?" Faced with this attitude, the male lead felt a bit timid and thought to himself, "What the heck? Did I do something wrong? Or does she just not care about a lowly supporting character like me?" He stammered in reply. Actually, I've heard a lot about you. Don't you think you can get that staff?" Flame replied in confusion. "Taravan?" Seeing that she had cooled down, the male lead smiled with narrowed eyes and said, "That's right, it's that one." Suddenly, a sound caused the male lead to instantly lose his smile. It grew louder each day, radiating a powerful aura. This scared the hell out of him, his eyes wide open. Then suddenly, a magic wand flew into his hand from out of nowhere. He exclaimed with his eyes half closed, "Huh, what is this?" He exclaimed with his eyes half closed. "Huh, what is this?" Flame was supposed to take it, wasn't she? Damn it. At this moment, the male lead was speechless, not knowing how to explain, his face slightly embarrassed. Flame. As for her, she stood blank-faced for a moment, and then she narrowed her eyes and exclaimed, "What about it?" He stood watching this strange behavior, getting goosebumps, and stammered, "Ah, nothing." But at this moment he was secretly worried about the future. Well, that's it. I'm screwed. At this rate, I can't even live in seclusion anymore. So the inheritance ceremony ended, but its lingering effects seemed to remain. At this moment, on the school grounds, Flame was slowly walking behind a group of students. She accidentally overheard the conversation of two young men in front of her. One person said, "Hey, have you heard the hot news? This year, 2 students acquired high-grade medium staffs." The other person, surprised, replied, "Really? Only 5 people have managed that before, and now there are 2 more." "Yeah, that's right. But it's really strange one of the 2 only used teleportation in the magic casting test. Oh, teleportation is just basic magic. How could that be? My parents once said teleportation is a rare junk magic. This is truly strange, isn't it?" Their conversation made Flame ponder. She herself didn't understand this. A moment later, in the study room, Flame had also arrived nearby, and the atmosphere of the place made her feel comfortable, exclaiming, "Finally, it's quiet." And this all day today, wherever I went, I heard whispers about it. But I still don't understand. Who is he? Why was he able to obtain the Taravan wand? I had read the original novel 3 times before transmigrating here, but this character, Beck Usial, never appeared. They said no one could get Taravan, but he resonated with it so easily. No, that's not right. He's deliberately showing off to me. That's more accurate. Well, never mind this. Thinking about it now is useless. Suddenly, someone called her name. "Flame, are you also planning to study by yourself?" Seeing someone call her name, she turned around, smiled with narrowed eyes, and happily replied, "These kids are so strange. Do you think I'm a bookworm?" The blonde girl continued, "No, you always say there's nothing to do and then you sit down to study." Flame awkwardly replied, "Oh no, not at all." A girl standing nearby spoke up curiously, "But Flame, why do you call us kids? We're the same age, aren't we?" Flame simply made up some excuse and replied, "Oh, it's probably just a habit of mine. Where I used to live, everyone often treated me like an old aunt, But the truth was, she knew perfectly well she was living in a novel, so how could she act like a child? Another voice spoke up. "So, are you planning to study alone today?" Looking back, she saw a pretty little girl with red hair. She suddenly thought, is this little girl Jackie? Why is her fashion sense so similar to mine? Thinking so, she still happily replied, "Oh no, there's a class coming up, so I was just going to join it." "Well, I'm going first." "Okay, see you next time for a drink." With that, Flame quickly turned and left, not forgetting to wave goodbye bye-bye. As cheerful and warm as she was just now, she now returned to her cold demeanor. At this moment, she suddenly thought, it's really hard for an adult like me to go back to being a student. Due to being engrossed in silly thoughts, she didn't notice what was in front of her, and then she bumped her head with a thump into someone. Then she clutched her head, groaning, "Ouch, that hurts!" Suddenly, the person she collided with spoke, Flame. Hearing this warm voice, she looked up in surprise. "Hey Wonryung, is that you?" The young man immediately asked, "Are you all right? What were you thinking about? walking so hastily? Flame replied, "Oh, I'm fine." He looked at Flame for a moment, then asked again, "You don't look so good. Is something wrong?" Hearing these warm words of concern, Flame's eyes suddenly sparkled as she thought, "Is he worried about me?" Then she shyly replied, "Oh no, what that off—" The young man, hearing this, changed the subject and asked, "Well, it's good that you're okay. Are you also going to study by yourself?" "That's right. And you're going to the S-Class exclusive training room too?" Flame replied, "How can one be lazy when training every day? You're too dedicated." Hey, you shouldn't say that." "Oh, is that so?" And so a small cat and dog argument just took place. Immediately after, the young man said nothing more but looked at Flame with deep affection. Then he smiled again and waved his hand in front of her. "Well, I'm going first. See you later." He just walked away, leaving Flame in confusion. She was imagining some romantic story, but that didn't happen. Flame turned away, somewhat disappointed, thinking, how bland. Flame turned away, somewhat disappointed, thinking, how bland. From behind a nearby door, her purple-haired friend was still secretly watching her. Seeing this, Flame immediately waved, but her friend said nothing and just walked away. Faced with this action, Flame was a bit confused, but then she thought it was too late, and there was no point in chasing her now. A moment later, she arrived at the self-study room. Standing before the room, she thought to herself, "A special supplementary class?" As I recall from the original novel, Isel and Beyon will attend this class. I'm curious to see how the heroine and the villainess of this novel will confront each other. Immediately after, she opened the door and entered. Just as she predicted, all the important characters had appeared. She slowly scanned her eyes around. What caught her eye was the host, A-rank Kyle. He seemed quite surprised by the presence of the members today. Flame also quickly chose a seat high up so she could easily observe everything. As she slowly sat down, she thought, "This is a supplementary class for students who want to advance. No wonder it seems like so many famous S-Class students are participating." At this moment, what caught Flame's eye was Ma Yu-seong and Beck Yu-sol. Watching the two of them chatting quite happily, this quite surprised Flame. In this world, Ma Yu-seong was actually interested in the unknown Beck Yu-sol. Flame thought this was not just a coincidence, and Beck Yu-sol's inability to solve any question except the three hellishly difficult ones was also very illogical. Perhaps from the very beginning, Beck Yu-sol knew that if he could solve those questions, he would definitely be placed in S-Class. And if Beck Yu-sol truly knew the future, his actions at that time would indeed be terrifying. Meanwhile, Beck Yu-sol was still sighing, thinking, "I wish someone would just throw this name away and out of my sight." Ma Yu-seong, on the other hand, smiled broadly at Yu-seong and asked, "Oh, Yu-seong, why are you sitting here? With your level, you don't really need to attend this kind of class. Or do you have some unspoken reason?" The male lead gave an awkward laugh and replied, "Haha, there's no particular reason, I just felt like coming to check it out." But in reality, he was deceiving himself. He was essentially forced to attend this class. Who told him to have low scores? He was fed up with the person in front of him, puzzled as to why he seemed so focused on him. At this moment, someone's voice rang out, "All right, everyone, quiet down. Let's stop the small talk here." Today we will discuss the issues from the recent ranking test. As you all know, this ranking test had a very high level of scrutiny. It was even so difficult that upperclassmen gave up and called them the 3 hell questions. And I will slowly explain them more clearly to everyone. He said that, but in his heart he was quite worried. He didn't understand why those famous people were also present here. His purpose was simply to boost his external reputation by helping out a few foolish kids in this class. Suddenly, an idea sparked in Kyle's mind. He looked towards Beck Yu-sol and thought, wait, this might be my chance. I heard that Beck Yu-sol scored the lowest on the entrance ranking test. At this thought, Kyle very confidently continued,
"Everyone, please pay attention. Next, I will guide you through solving the first question."
Then Kyle spoke while presenting on the board. This question is actually a trick question. It's trying to lead everyone into a dead end. First, we have to do it like this. At this moment, Everyone sitting below was both listening and diligently taking notes. Ma Yuseong also glanced over at Yuseong, seeing him deep in thought about something. He then asked, "What do you think? Do you think his point of view is accurate?" Yuseong, bewildered by the question, looked up. Looking to his side, he was smiling, his eyes narrowed, eagerly awaiting an answer. Faced with this peculiar attitude, the male lead's face turned pale as he thought, "What the hell is he saying? He's asking me if I think that guy's viewpoint is correct? I don't even understand what's being taught up there, let alone anything else." What are the 3 hell questions? But anyway, honesty is a good virtue. At this thought, Yuseong replied, "Oh no, I don't know either." No sooner had he finished speaking than the students next to him, half hearing, half guessing, turned to each other and said, "What? It's Beck Yusol. He said Kyle made a mistake." It seemed these two deliberately said that to slander Yuseong, as everyone knew he had the lowest entrance score. At this moment, Kyle, who was diligently writing on the board, accidentally overheard those words and stopped. He was a bit vexed, grinding his teeth. Suddenly, the male lead noticed something was off. He glanced left, then right, thinking confusedly, "Huh? What the hell is this? Why is everyone staring at me?" As for Kyle, he stopped writing, snapped the chalk, and said, "Yes, I was wrong." The male lead was utterly bewildered upon hearing this. What the hell is happening? Immediately after, Kyle suddenly grinned smugly and continued, "So, Beck Yusol, why don't you come down here and help everyone understand this part?" Upon hearing this, his hair stood on end, and he thought in a panic, "Nani, what the hell is he saying?" Suddenly, he saw Ma Yusong's eyes and was a little surprised. He smiled brightly, with a confident expression like, "You can do it, go for it." But at this point, he probably understood everything. This guy and the others were deliberately playing this trick. At this thought, he slowly walked down from the podium, thinking as he went, "All right. If you want to humiliate me, you are mistaken. I will make you open your eyes wide in admiration." As soon as he stepped down to the podium, he took something out from his person and read through the solution he had. It turned out what he took was the mockingbird glasses. He suddenly thought, the 3 hell questions? It looks more like wordplay. The question was roughly as follows. A mage cast a spell, "O Mother Earth, please shed tears," and from that, the dust doubled from its original amount. The question is, why is that? The answer to this question is also very simple. Is it just dust crying? It's just a state of separation. The male lead irritably scratched his hair, muttering curses under his breath at whoever was bored enough to come up with such a brain-twisting question. To him, it was a complete farce, yet in this place, it was a huge deal for those others. But on second thought, that Kyle guy solves problems in a way that's unlike anyone else. Like dust to dust. It's truly unbelievable. His completely random method, although obviously wrong, miraculously yielded the correct answer, probably thanks to some divine intervention. But if he encountered another similar question, he'd surely be out of his league. And from now on, this stage is all mine, darlings. With that thought, the male lead turned sharply to Kyle and declared with a chillingly calm voice, "I can't really show you how to solve this problem, but I can tell you where you went wrong." Kyle flinched, stammering, "Do what?" The male lead calmly continued, "The problem with Earth's foundation. But what if it were water or wind? Do you think your method can solve them? In that case, I'll use a more understandable method. But if you do that, you'll need many different methods to solve the same type of question. Therefore, you were just lucky to get the right answer. This also doesn't mean your answer is what the person who asked the question intended." Kyle was left speechless, his mouth agape, wanting to retort but only managing to choke out the words, it, before finally conceding, "You're right." Seeing Kyle's dejected state, the male lead felt a bit guilty. "I think I might have been a bit too harsh and brought his mood down." He then continued, "Anyway, the solution is like this." Kyle listened while diligently taking notes. The whole group of students below were also eagerly taking notes. Witnessing this scene, Flame could only stare with wide, surprised eyes. Why is everyone suddenly so engrossed in writing down what he says? Isel and Beyon should be jumping into combat, shouldn't they? But now they're both engrossed in analyzing his solution. What's going on? What the hell is happening? It's really unbelievable. At this moment, sunset had fallen, painting a corner of the sky purple. Inside, Ma Yu-seong waved to Yusil. Bye-bye. See you tomorrow. The young man smiled brightly and then was gone. Yusil also reluctantly raised his hand in a wave. Goodbye. After Ma Yu-seong had disappeared, Yusil covered his face and thought dejectedly, I'm screwed. If I keep sticking to this Ma Yu-seong, I'll be dead one day. I don't want tomorrow to come. I don't want to see him again in this lifetime. With that thought, he slowly released his hands, looking at his slender fingers, and an idea sparked. It must be because of the phone. And now, even if I want to use it, I can't. It's so frustrating, but it's also because of it that Ma Yu-seong noticed me. Damn it. Why do I have to keep running into him? And it's strange. No one but Flame has ever used it before. As he was strolling along, he suddenly saw Beyon still standing hesitantly nearby, a hint of sadness on her face. He thought to himself, what's wrong with this lady? She looks… well, whatever, it's not my business. It's not worth the effort. Then he just walked past Beyon. Suddenly she spoke up. Hey, Beck, you saw? He was still bewildered, unsure if he had misheard when she continued, I have something to ask you. The male lead was visibly surprised, not expecting someone as perfect as her to have a question for him. He replied, Beyon, what's wrong? The girl didn't beat around the bush and went straight to the point. Why didn't you explain your answer just now? The male lead, hearing this, froze for a few seconds, thinking, I did explain, didn't I? And to be honest, I don't even know how to explain it anymore. A question with no answer. Should I explain it with faith? She must have misunderstood something. He awkwardly scratched his head. Well, I didn't have to explain it. Beyon, hearing this, immediately cut him off. I understand you don't want to reveal it there, do you? This statement made him even more confused, thinking, no, that's not it. The girl said again, then I'll compensate you. The male lead, hearing this, almost fell over. What are you talking about? Beyon firmly declared, I said I will compensate you fairly. So whatever is in your head, just explain it to me. Meanwhile, he was so shocked his ears were ringing, his mouth agape. Huh? A moment later, the two of them sneakily approached Professor Lee's office. After fumbling for a while, they finally found their own test papers. He glanced at Beyon's paper and said, I really don't understand why you're paying me to solve 3 questions on the placement test. For you, Beyon replied, I have my own reasons that I can't explain, just tell me. Yes, my lady. The male lead obediently. After looking at her paper, he questioned, but you only got those 3 questions wrong. As for me, I got all the other questions wrong, yet you're asking for my help. Don't you feel ashamed? Beyon nonchalantly replied, no, the only thing I feel ashamed of is that I still can't understand the answers to those questions. If you can answer this question for me, I am willing to do anything. The male lead, upon hearing this, was stunned, thinking to himself, isn't she a model student? Then he asked, but why are you asking me? You're a princess, you don't lack friends to ask, do you? The girl stammered. That is, actually, among the 11 first-year students, only 3 answered these 3 hellishly difficult questions correctly, and you are one of them. The male lead, upon hearing this, almost dropped his jaw. What? What did you say? The girl looked a bit dejected. Those questions don't have answers, and yet Ma Yu-seong, Flame, and you were all able to solve them. That is what I feel most ashamed of. The male lead, unable to bear it any longer, his hands trembling. No, wait. Then he shot up and yelled, these 3 questions are a trick, aren't they? So no one could solve them? Yes, you didn't realize that when you were solving them, Beyon replied. After hearing that, he forced himself to swallow his anger, sat down heavily, his head spinning. This is insane. Now I understand why I'm in S class, and why Flame was trying to stop me. I know nothing about the game's settings in this world. I don't even know how many trick questions there are. But Flame is probably different. Because she's read the whole novel, even if she doesn't know the game's plot. But she definitely knows the settings in the story, like those 3 trick questions. But because a minor character not in the original novel appeared, Flame had to acknowledge the existence of this Beck Iselin. Damn it. No wonder she acted so strange. Beyon, seeing his reaction, asked in bewilderment, "What's wrong with you?" The male lead nonchalantly replied, "Oh, it's nothing, don't worry. Don't forget you promised to help me with something if I explained the answer to you." Beyon nodded. "Yeah, of course." The male lead continued, "I just have a small request, which is to turn my staff into a magic sword. The blacksmiths in your kingdom can do that, right?" Upon hearing this, Beyon's eyes widened in surprise. King K Hung Bi a Ma Hung Zang. But only low-level mercenaries use that kind of weapon. Why would a future mage like you? The male lead quickly cut him off. "Oh, it's just my taste." He couldn't possibly say it was his weakness, and then he looked at her with expectant eyes. "What do you think? Can you do it?" Meanwhile, the girl thought for a moment and then confidently replied, "Of course, that's incredibly simple for me. This is the perfect answer." The male lead, upon hearing this, was visibly pleased. His cheeks flushed, thinking, absolutely fantastic. With that thought, he slowly began to explain. "So I'll tell you how to solve this problem first." He pointed to the exam paper and declared, "The method is to change your own perspective." The girl, upon hearing this, was bewildered. Change perspective? The male lead knew perfectly well that Beyon's weakness was her overly mechanical magic, and that she was trapped in it. Beyon only realized this in her 2nd year after losing to Flame. "I don't think I can help her realize it now, but hopefully I can show her the way. So what I need to do now is..." With that thought, he continued, "Do you understand what a riddle is?" Faced with this question, Beyon was slightly surprised and then replied, "A riddle? I think I've heard of it." The male lead continued, "Then I'll give you an example. What is between a knee and a knee?" Immediately after, she rested her chin on her hand, racking her brain before answering, "Is it the inside of the knee?" The male lead nonchalantly, "You're wrong. The answer to this is and." Byon still didn't understand, questioning, "Huh? Why is that?" He then emphasized the question, "What I'm asking you is what word is between the word knee and the word knee. Do you understand what I mean now? Right?" The girl, realizing she had been tricked, became furious. As for Beck Iselin, seeing her about to explode, he felt a bit intimidated and said, "Hey, come on now, don't be mad at me like that. Calm down, just sit down and look at this question first. It also has its own formulas and tricks that you don't know yet. So I mean, before any problem you need to solve it more creatively. But can you do this with just your own creativity?" Beyon, upon hearing this, looked dejected. She felt ashamed and replied, "No, that's impossible." At this moment, the male lead finally breathed a sigh of relief, smiling as he said, "Of course, although understanding various spells and their applications is extremely important, but for a mage, the most important thing is their perspective on this world. Through your viewpoint, magic will change unpredictably, even if it's just the smallest changes. Magic will change unpredictably, even if it's just the smallest changes. Spells are not just about memorizing and casting them. You are someone who can be better than me at analysis and evaluation, but you lack the most important thing for a mage, which is creativity." After Beck Iselin's lengthy lecture, Beyon became pensive, pondering his every word. She couldn't deny it, nor could she control her emotions, her hands trembling uncontrollably. She was drowning in despair, and the male lead, seeing her serious expression, broke out in a sweat. He rubbed his head awkwardly. "So you understand what I just said, right? Even though it might sound a bit complicated and abstract." Beyon confidently replied, "Of course I understand." The male lead gave a forced smile, thinking, "That's great. I don't even understand what the hell I just said." He seriously continued, "I'm very happy that you can understand what I just said. So, let's begin. I'll ask you, what did the man say to the horse when he put it to bed?" Upon hearing this, the girl was a bit bewildered, then rested her chin on her hand and thought, "What did the man say to the horse when he put it to bed?" After much thought, she dejectedly replied, "I don't know either." The male lead immediately answered, "The answer is very simple. It's time for bed. And then he continued to fire off a series of other questions. Why don't they work harder? I don't know either. It's because they always lie down when they work. So what happens when scissors, rock, and paper join a race together? I don't know either. My answer is that rock will roll, while scissors and paper cannot move. Their shapes do not allow for movement. At this point, he turned to look at Beyon, not daring to say another word. At this moment, her whole body trembled. It seemed she was tormenting herself, so angry that she frowned, gritting her teeth, looking very uncomfortable. Faced with this attitude, the male lead also felt a bit intimidated, thinking to himself, "Oh my God, she looks like she's about to transform." The male lead mustered all his courage and asked another question. "So, what will the clouds say to the sea?" "Oh wait, what will the clouds say to the sea when it rains?" The girl concentrated intensely, thinking. She kept encouraging herself. Come on, I can do it. Calm down." After a moment of mental struggle, she stammered, "I'm falling into the sea." Faced with this answer, the male lead exclaimed in surprise, "Oh, you got it right." Finally, she got one question right and was acknowledged, her heart filled with indescribable joy. That joy was evident on her face at this moment. Beyon smiled brightly, her eyes sparkling with excitement. And it was this reaction from her that utterly surprised him. This was also the first time he had ever seen her smile, whether in the game or in real life. The male lead also felt a surge of joy, smiling smugly. A princess is different indeed. Your creativity is on a whole other level. Tried to maintain her composure and continued, "All right, let's move on. Tell me the next question." The male lead grinned. "Good. That's more like it, right? So my next question is..." And so the two of them chatted animatedly until it was completely dark. Outside on the school grounds, a few groups of students still lingered, chatting and laughing. At this moment, the male lead was also walking home alone, looking quite tired, his eyes dark with fatigue. He sighed, thinking dejectedly, what a waste of time, spending 3 hours just to ask a bunch of nonsensical questions to Beyon, and I don't even expect her to remember what I said. Speaking of Beyon, she's definitely going to be a formidable witch with a super sharp mind in the future. But her weakness is her overly rigid thinking. But if I wanted to exploit that weakness to mock her, even if she is the villain, I'd feel terribly guilty. But I need to quickly forge Taravan into a magic sword, so I must try even harder. Damn it. Not like my old self. I could do anything on my own. Well, thinking too much gives me a headache. I should go find the necessary books for the upcoming class. A moment later, he arrived at a certain place. He looked around, searching for something, and muttered to himself, "No, it must be around here, right? I didn't misremember, did I?" Then his eyes suddenly lit up and he whispered, "Here it is. This is it." In front of him was an old, dilapidated house. Inside, dust and cobwebs were everywhere. Stepping inside, looking at the desolate scene before him, he thought, wow, this place looks so run down. Looking at the shop owner, he suddenly remembered, but I know one thing. The owner of this bookstore has a strange habit of pretending to be asleep and secretly peeking at customers. If I remember correctly, this unknown bookstore has Maella's notebook. He was the valedictorian of Stella Academy 10 years ago. If it were my old self, I could just click once and see it right away. But in this world, you need books to learn. Moreover, what books you study also affect your advancement. At first, I bought books from famous shops, but then I discovered that all the good books were hidden in unknown stores. With that thought, he went deeper into the shop and began his search. As he walked, he gleefully thought, studying magic techniques with Maella's notes in hand, what could be more awesome? I'll definitely get a perfect score. But that was just wishful thinking. In reality, just wearing the mockingbird glasses would be enough to get a decent score. But that was just wishful thinking. In reality, just wearing the mockingbird glasses would be enough to get a decent score. But what if I could find some secret formula? Suddenly something caught his eye. A green book tucked away in the corner of a cabinet. He exclaimed, "This is what I was looking for." Just as he reached out to grab it, another hand reached for it at the same time. And so the two of them just stared at each other. He exclaimed in surprise, "Iselin?" The girl bewilderedly replied, "Huh, how do you know me?" "Of course, you're so famous. the male lead replied. At this moment, the girl gradually recognized him and said, "Ah, I remember. You're also in the supplementary group. Your name is Beck Usol, right?" The male lead was a little disappointed upon hearing this, thinking, "Oh my God, doesn't she remember we met before enrolling in the academy?" The girl continued, "Oh, I really enjoyed that debate. It's just a shame you couldn't explain all the answers." At this moment, the male lead also suddenly remembered that Iselin was also someone who couldn't solve those questions. Then the girl said, "Anyway, it was very nice to meet you." Then she coldly turned and walked away, and he was a little surprised by her attitude. But the important thing right now was that, thankfully, the book hadn't been taken by anyone. He quickly took the book and then looked towards Iselin, thinking to himself, "Why is she here?" This moment, the girl was still choosing books, but it seemed she was quite hesitant to buy, which was evident in how she carefully checked the price of each book. After checking the price, the girl sighed in disappointment and put the book back in its place. This action of hers was noticed by Beck Usel. He also guessed the reason she was here. This bookstore only sells used books, so the customers here are usually poor students like me. Someone from a fallen family like Iselin, having lost everything, can only come here. Her father was probably killed by a dark mage. He suddenly felt she was so pitiful. How sad, a princess having to buy used books. And on top of that, having to scrutinize the prices for fear of not having enough money. Moreover, Iselin also had a tragic ending in the original novel. She even died before Flame, who became the main character in this world. It can be said that Iselin is the unluckiest character in the game. At this thought, he also managed to pick a few books he liked. They looked quite thick and heavy. He placed the books in front of the shopkeeper and said, "I'd like to pay, please." At the same time, Iselin also went to the checkout counter. Looking at the stack of books he had chosen, Iselin could only stand and watch with envy. But she seemed surprised that he bought so many books. The shopkeeper was equally surprised. "All of this? All right." The male lead just nodded slightly and glanced at Iselin. Meanwhile, the girl looked a bit sad, so he asked, "What's wrong?" The girl replied indifferently, "You seem like, you've chosen all the good books, haven't you?" The male lead was a little confused upon hearing this, thinking, is she trying to insult me? The male lead was a little confused upon hearing this, thinking, is she trying to insult me? Iselin continued, "All of them. But why are you reading about advanced sealing theory? Sealing theory is an ancient art that requires items. Therefore, now that alchemists and magic engineers have become advanced, that skill is rarely used." He then replied, "Oh, this book? It really isn't very useful." Upon hearing this, the girl thought he must be crazy to choose it. Then she coldly said, "So you knew that?" He calmly, "Of course. That's why I took it." Upon hearing this, the girl was so surprised, her mouth dropped open. "Huh? What?" The male lead, holding the stack of books, grinned cunningly. "Because everyone thinks like you, it's easier to get high scores in this class. Well, I'm going first. Bye-bye." As he walked away, he thought smugly, just as Iselin said, not many people want to take the sealing theory class. But that's also why I'll spend less time and still get higher scores than other classes. With these few books, this semester will be an easy game. And with that, he was gone, leaving Iselin standing there in a daze. She was bewildered. Even though I wanted to ask more, my pride was too big to let me speak. Cut to the next day at Stella Academy. At this moment, Iselin was nervously walking down the hallway. This is the first lesson of the theory of nothingness, and also her first class since enrolling, she thought to herself. Anyway, this subject is easy to score in, so it probably won't be that bad. Then she entered the classroom. At this moment, there were already quite a few students present. As soon as she found an empty seat, she accidentally overheard the conversation of the friends next to her. "Hey, are you also taking theory of nothingness?" "Yeah, but I think I'm screwed. I signed up because I heard this class was easy, but it seems the rumor has spread far and wide. All the pros are in this class. We're really game over this time." Iselin, upon hearing this, could only sigh, thinking, "I have no choice, but I'll do my best in other classes." A moment later, the class ended. Everyone started to file out. Everyone seemed tired, groaning, Ouch, my butt's so sore from sitting. I'm starving. What should we have for lunch? Let's go to the cafeteria and see. Iselin trudged alone behind. She sighed, sadly thinking, damn it. What should I do now? With so many people in my class, it's hard to get a scholarship. At this moment, her stomach also rumbled loudly. Holding the wallet in her hand, she hesitated. Should I just go eat first? Let's see. I only have 60 meal tickets left this semester, so I'll just have bread today. Suddenly, Iselin's eyes lit up in surprise when she saw something. It turned out that on her way to the cafeteria, she happened to walk past a room. She recognized a familiar face, Beck Isel, who was also sitting there. At first, she wondered what he was doing here, but when she saw the professor teaching, she suddenly realized this was the class he had registered for. But strangely, this class had very few students, and all of them had poor academic records. This professor must be on the verge of unemployment. But then she suddenly realized, if I also register for this class, I can get high scores without spending much time. I can also save my energy to study other subjects to get a scholarship. Oh my God. I can't believe he's already calculated which subjects to take for an easy win. No, impossible. What am I thinking? It must be just a coincidence. With that thought, the girl also left. The scene shifts to the next morning. The sun has risen high. In a corner of the classroom, students were still attentively listening to the lecture. The teacher said, I'm sure all of you know what the root of magic is. The creator mage in white, spread magic throughout the world. Humans and other races have learned how to use magic. And the professor giving the lecture was Professor Layden, who specializes in researching the moon god. He continued, that mage taught the elves natural magic and the dwarves material magic, and he taught humans elemental magic. Then he ascended to heaven, blah, 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 and then a lecture full of abstract and incomprehensible concepts. The male lead listened, completely bewildered, and thought with exasperation, oh my God, at this rate I'll be a complete failure in 3 years. I could have skipped all this knowledge with just one button press in the game. But this lesson is also quite important. Maybe it will reveal the true ending. Well, it's all just my speculation anyway. Suddenly, he noticed the person sitting next to him seemed a little familiar. I don't remember any main characters registering for this class, but whatever. It's not my business. At this moment, the professor was still enthusiastically lecturing. Humanity's curiosity does not stop at elemental magic. Mages have traveled the world, stealing the magic of other races. Even so, they were not satisfied, but they couldn't learn anything more. The creator mage left behind 12 moon gods and then disappeared without a trace. Does anyone know about the 12 moon gods? A clear voice spoke up. They say they are the guardians who protect the balance of power on the continent. And it was none other than Iselin speaking. The girl added, I also heard they are scattered across the continent and carried that mission until 1,000 years ago. The teacher at this moment was quite surprised by the answer. He continued, oh, that's right, they have a special power to protect the continent. For example, the summer moon god, the 6th moon, is the red summer, carrying a blazing red flame, and they say that flame will never be extinguished. If you go to the bottom of the Alamanca Sea, you will still see the red flame. Anyone curious can go and see. The male lead, upon hearing this, thought he had misheard and was startled. Damn, is the teacher joking? If a living creature enters the territory of the Sea King Alamanca, they will be instantly vaporized. On the podium, the teacher was still passionately speaking. This is the Levian shore, a giant whirlpool in the middle of the ocean, frozen by the 12th moon, the green winter. Therefore, each moon god has its own unique power, but a miracle will happen if they combine. A student below asked, Teacher, what is that miracle? The teacher suddenly lowered his voice and replied, no one knows that. They have been sleeping for 1,000 years. At this moment, the male lead also felt the teacher was right. At least I've encountered a few moon gods while playing the game, but I only met 5 moons in limited time events. This is what I have gathered from other players. If I'm right, then the 12 moon gods have something to do with the true ending. Because no one has found the true ending in the past 10 years, the answer must lie in the unknown content I could only meet 5 moons after risking my life many times. But if I want to witness the true ending, then so be it. I'll just start over. At the same time, in another outdoor classroom, a huge flame was hurtling towards a dummy. A stylish woman in a red dress stood in the middle, her voice ringing out. Power is not everything. No matter how powerful the attack is, it's useless if it doesn't hit the enemy. And this woman was Professor Hong Yil, who taught the fire class. The female professor was walking around, observing the students practicing. Suddenly, she sensed something was about to happen. Immediately after, a massive stream of fire rushed towards the dummy. And then, boom, 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 a huge explosion occurred. The professor looked at this source of power with a rather pleased expression. But then, her eyes suddenly widened in utter surprise. But after the explosion, the smoke and dust gradually dissipated, and the dummy was not only not burnt to a crisp, but still intact. The professor looked at this scene, a little disappointed, and exclaimed, "That's terrible, Beyon." The girl, upon hearing this, trembled. Beyon sadly went to sit down and rest. Her eyes were heavy with disappointment, thinking, "I've done something wrong to Mother again. Mother will probably be very disappointed." Suddenly someone called out, "Princess." Looking up, she saw a red-haired girl with 2 braids, looking quite cute. The girl smiled with narrowed eyes and asked, "Are you all right?" Then she slowly sat down next to Beyon and continued, "You look wonderful, Princess." Beyon just replied indifferently, "What do you mean?" "Well, you used magic just like me, but it's much stronger." "What good is it? I didn't even hit the target." "But your magic is really amazing, it's so cool. To be honest, I've known about you since I was a child." Upon hearing this, Beyon also realized that this girl was also a fire mage like herself. "It seems her name is Arshwang. I seem to have heard it somewhere before. They say a genius fire mage has appeared. Even so, it's nothing compared to my magic." With that thought, Beyon exclaimed in admiration, "It's amazing how accurate you are." The girl shyly replied, "But if you practice more, how can I even compare?" Beyon stood up and said, "But it's only enough for the weak. Anyway, talking to you has made me feel much better. Goodbye." With that, Beyon also left, leaving the braided girl sitting there in a daze. The scene shifts to a certain castle, looking quite neat and tidy. Beyon was also here, but she looked quite tired. At this moment, a voice rang out. "Princess." A strong, serious woman appeared from behind. She continued, "Welcome back, Your Highness," and she was Hong Beyon's personal guard, named Yerin. "Your Highness, some warm tea and sweets have been prepared," Beyon replied. "Thank you." Yerin continued, "Regarding the mission to adjust the appearance of the magic wand that you assigned to me earlier, because that wand is very good. They said they can create a high-grade magic sword." Beyon ate her cake while listening, a little skeptical. "Is that so?" Yerin continued, "However, there are some questions." Beyon was a little surprised. "Questions?" Yerin stammered. "Like, I heard that it constantly drains mana from its owner." Upon hearing this, Beyon was astonished, and then she shot up, turned around, and in a panic, "What? Isn't that a dark artifact?" Yerin suddenly lowered his voice. "Not exactly. It resonates with the energy of nature." Then Beyon, utterly bewildered, mumbled, "Impossible. Something that drains its master's mana can resonate with the power of nature? But then why is that magic wand only of intermediate grade?" Yerin replied, "This is exactly why it's only at that level. What do you think about this? The original ability is still to powerfully enhance the user's mana, making it stronger or even reaching a high level. The original ability is still to powerfully enhance the user's mana, making it stronger or even reaching a high level." Upon hearing this, Beyon could no longer maintain her composure, jumping up and shouting, "What? High grade? How can a student use that?" And Yerin himself was quite surprised by this. Meanwhile, Beyon was still bewildered. She didn't know how to explain it herself, clutching her head and continuing, "I knew it didn't resonate with everyone from the beginning, but I didn't think anyone would use it even if they got it, unless they have a huge amount of mana or none at all. I don't understand this. I can be sure any normal person would know that." After speaking at length, the girl's throat seemed dry. She took a sip of hot tea to soothe her voice and added, "But anyway, he is definitely a special person." The scene shifts to a few days after the new semester began. In a certain classroom, a teacher was enthusiastically explaining to the students, "Offensive magic requires a deeper understanding than any other type of magic." And our male lead was also sitting attentively listening to the lecture in this classroom. This bald professor was the mana guiding professor, Carlim. He continued, "That's why the mana guiding class is mandatory. From now on, in your one-on-one duels, you will learn to guide with a focus on releasing and aiming." And in this class, Iselin was also participating. She seemed to be listening quite intently. At the same time, on the podium, the professor was still enthusiastically explaining, to release means to shoot magic from the caster's body, and to aim means to use magic on a stationary target. Then we will discuss the trajectory formula as follows. From a distance of 760 meters to the north, Chiolsu is moving at a speed of 126 meters per second to the south. So what is the appropriate trajectory and predicted distance that Yonghee needs to use water-based magic? The teacher said this, and the whole class suddenly fell silent. Below, two student silhouettes were whispering, breaking the solemn atmosphere of the classroom. The friend sitting next to them, seeming to want to intervene, quickly added, "If you're not an expert in the water element, then it's best not to answer this question." "But isn't the teacher making it difficult for us?" Drowsiness began to set in, causing the male lead to yawn repeatedly. He silently lamented, "This is so boring. Why does this take even more time than a Korean class?" Suddenly, the professor with the famous bald head spoke up, his voice cutting through the prevailing weariness. "Student Beek Yusol, please stand up and answer this question." With a look of utter boredom, the male lead mumbled, "Yes, sir." But deep down, he was screaming, "Damn it, me again." After a while of struggling with the problem, Yusol finally found the solution. He confidently turned back and declared, "I'm done, sir." "I'm done, sir." "You can solve it so easily? Is your original attribute water?" He quickly waved his hand, humbly replying, "No, sir. Oh, that's great. Let's move on to the next question." It was those very gestures of his that made Isel see him in a completely different light. Shortly after, the lesson ended, and everyone began to pack up their books, preparing to leave. A clear voice from behind, "Excuse me," reacting instinctively, he turned around and replied, "Yes, are you talking to me?" In front of him now was Isel. The girl continued, "Yes, I have a question I'd like to ask you." An idea suddenly sparked in Isel's mind. She had been wondering something about Yusol while observing him. It's not about his ranking, but he's very smart, even compared to the top wankers. He could solve the professor's problem so quickly and accurately. That's really hard to believe. The difficulty of that question is, at least at the university level, and not just any professor could solve it. Even though Stella is a gathering place for geniuses, what is Yusol's identity? At first I didn't think so, but now I'm sure he definitely has a course registration strategy. At this point, Isel finally asked, "I'd like to ask you, what is your next course?" Faced with this unexpected question, Yusol couldn't help but be surprised. He tried to maintain his composure and replied, "Why do you ask? Don't tell me you like me." Isel looked a little annoyed. "What the hell? Do you think I'm a pervert? That's disgusting." Yusol's face turned purple with anger. "I'm the one who finds it disgusting. Isn't that right?" But immediately after, he suddenly realized, "I'm an adult. What the hell am I saying?" Then he scratched his head awkwardly and asked again, "But why are you asking?" At this moment, Isel seriously replied, "I've researched the classes you're taking. It seems they are classes where you can easily get high scores. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I want to ask you directly, where did you learn that strategy? Because this is quite important to me." The male lead, upon hearing this, thought to himself, "I was just wondering what she was going to ask. Now I understand." Immediately he waved his hands and laughed. "Ha ha, what do you mean? Those classes. It's probably just a coincidence. If that's all, then I'm leaving." With that, he turned and walked away. Faced with this somewhat indifferent attitude, Isel couldn't help but exclaim in surprise, "What? Watching his retreating figure, she couldn't help but call out, "Wait!" But he was no longer concerned at this point. The girl mustered all her courage and ran after him, grabbing him. "Please, wait!" Isel finally stopped. The girl gasped for breath and said, "Please, wait a moment." Isel replied, "What's up? Why are you following me? You should learn that from someone else. There are many talented people here. Or just imitate me. You said you've already researched it." Upon hearing this, Isel stammered, explaining, "But anyone who takes the Moon God class gets an A+, so it's not that important. But if I register for the same class as you, it might negatively affect your score." At this point, her eyes suddenly filled with sadness, a sense of guilt creeping into her heart. If he doesn't get the scholarship, it will be a loss for him. But even in this situation, he was still worried about someone else's score. The male lead looked at her pitiful expression and suddenly thought, although she's a bit annoying, the female lead is still the female lead. Suddenly, the girl looked innocent and adorable. "But anyway, can you suggest a class for me? One where it's easy to get high scores, please, I'm begging you." The male lead bluntly replied, "Do you think that look can persuade me?" The girl put her hand on her cheek, acting coy. "Oh, that's strange. Normally when I look at myself, all my worries disappear." This overly confident expression made the male lead want to vomit. He nonchalantly replied, "Are you serious?" Isel's face flushed, her eyes narrowed in a smile. "Haha, I'm just kidding. I knew you'd react like that, so I've prepared some cool things to compensate you." The male lead, hearing this, shivered. Compensation? He was shocked to his core, thinking, damn it. Why are these kids so obsessed with compensation? They just open their mouths and demand it? Suddenly, Isel said again, "Do you know about the seventh magic?" Upon hearing this, the male lead jumped. "Yes, I know," Isel added. "Really? Not many people know. Because it's a deserted tower that has disappeared in yearly experiences. And there are many barriers preventing people from getting close to where the tower once stood." But there, as she was enthusiastically telling the story, she suddenly stopped when she saw Usiol's strange expression. She asked worriedly, "Wait, what's wrong with you? Are you all right?" As for Usiol, his mind was reeling. "I'm going crazy. This is incredibly important information. Because of this, Flame can increase her inflammiance on the male lead." Moreover, Flame knew about that in the original plot. Isel also knew this, and Isel only told this information to the male lead, not a supporting character like me. At this thought, he didn't want to hear anymore, and waved his hand. "That sounds like a scary story. I don't want to hear it either. It's not interesting at all." Then he just walked away. Isel was bewildered and quickly explained, "It's not that scary. Are you afraid of ghosts at this age?" Isel reluctantly replied, All right, I'll tell you." The girl feigned coyness. "Oh, you just pretended you wouldn't tell me. Why the quick change of heart?" "Yes, I like it like that," Isel replied curtly. At this moment, he thought again. Moreover, the fact that Isel wants to give me something is enough. With that thought, he spoke up. "Anyway, this has nothing to do with grades, but it's something extremely useful for you. You should register for the Meditation and Void Journey course as a cultural class." Isel heard this and was stunned. Meditation? Register for that as a cultural class? The Moon God and meditation classes are prioritized. Do you like to cultivate? Not really, the male lead replied, but he didn't know how to explain it either. He quickly made up a reason. My master is also a bishop like you, and through meditation one can enhance their magic level." Isel's eyes widened in surprise. Just with meditation? Based on his 10 years of experience grinding through the game all night, he calmly explained, "In reality, this has not yet been discovered. But for bishops who wield large-scale destructive magic, meditation is extremely important. To cast accurately, based on formulas and equations, but most importantly, the mind, which controls magical power. I haven't told this to anyone yet, but you're an exception because you're quite cute." The girl was confused, unsure whether to believe him. "You just called me ugly earlier." The girl was confused, unsure whether to believe him. "You just called me ugly earlier." But it seemed this compliment had hit the right spot with the girls. She smiled brightly. "Anyway, I thank you, although it's not a subject that will help me improve my grades. I will register for it, Usiel replied. That's up to you, you can do whatever you want. Having achieved her goal, the girl happily left. Watching her retreating figure, Usiel couldn't help but feel a little worried. He didn't know if what he just did was right or wrong, and just sighed. I've told her everything. It makes me a little scared about how the future will change. But if I just leave her like that, Isel will face another tragedy in this world. If meditation can help her, that would be a good thing. At this thought, an idea suddenly sparked in his mind. That he himself is also a mage. But why haven't I thought about practicing until now? If it were in the game, I could gain experience by pressing a button, but now I can only do it directly. It seems quite late already. There are no segments or hunting quests, so I can't gain any more experience. But anyway, I have to thank Isel. A moment later, Usiel returned to the dormitory. At Stella, all students lived in dormitories. This system is a side feature in the game, allowing players to freely decorate their rooms. But for Usiel, this was his only home, as his village had been burned to the ground. The dormitory is also divided by rank. The rooms all have the same size, but the number of people in each room depends on the rank. And obviously, the S-class students always occupy the highest floors. The male lead was alone in his room at this moment, feeling a little lonely. But then he thought, finally, I can make use of it. He took a deep breath. Well then, it's time to begin. Usiel sat in meditation, concentrating intensely to practice. Stats are not the most important thing. Since this is reality, I have to get used to using my body. In the game, Usiel is a genius who can control sword aura by using the endless circulating mana both inside and outside the body. No one paid attention to him, so no one knew, but Usiel is a genius swordsman who has reached the pinnacle of swordsmanship. I have to walk that path again. My breath is what controls the flow of mana in my body. If I can slowly increase the amount of mana I take in with each breath, I'll be able to get enough mana in just one go. Skills don't increase just by collecting EXP, but you have to continuously use the skill to level up. This also means you have to practice. And so, he diligently cultivated for a long night. The clock struck 4 a.m., and a new day began. Inside the room, Usiel was still engrossed in his cultivation, his whole body radiating a golden aura. Suddenly, he opened his eyes wide. Then he raised his hands, feeling the refreshing stream of energy flowing through his body. He was astonished. This must be what Usiel felt. As someone who accepted having mana leakage since childhood, although it's a bit faint, I can still feel it. At the same time, the system displayed a notification. Mana leak syndrome skill has leveled up. Teleportation skill has leveled up. The male lead looked at the status board with deep satisfaction. Excellent. I've taken another step closer to my goal. I will find the true ending at all costs. The scene suddenly changes, shifting to a certain place with fresh air and a vast, lush meadow stretching to the horizon. Suddenly, a mysterious figure appeared. It turned out this was a poetic space at Stella Academy, and the female lead was immersing herself in the atmosphere here, I suddenly thought. The meadows and the kites are all artificial, but the feeling here is so real, so pleasant. To help everyone understand better, the Stella dormitory is actually a pocket dimension created within the school grounds. This allows everyone to freely change the space and its characteristics. All sports events, other activities, dungeons, portals, and monster training take place here for that very reason. Back to reality, the students had all gathered. Flame stood at the back, scanning the crowd, and noticed a total of 141 people, 50 from A1 and A2. The remaining 40 belonged to S-class. If it were like the novel, there would be 39 from S-class. I thought it would be 40, including myself. But unexpectedly, there's one more person. Yes, where did Usiel come from? In the novel, there were only 1,140 first-year students. And with me, that makes 1,141. In other words, Usiel is also in the original novel. Anyway, I'll figure everything out slowly. It's okay, I can do it. I'm the only one in this world who knows about this novel. The lesson will begin soon. Suddenly, the students in front of Flame began to murmur and gossip. One person spoke up, Prince Jeremy. Have you registered for the class yet? The blonde young man in the middle, likely the person mentioned, had a smug expression. Of course I have. We also registered for the soft magic research class because we heard you did too. He grinned. Really? Then let's help each other out. As for the female lead, watching his retreating figure, she thought to herself, that's Prince Jeremy. In the novel, he fell in love with both Flame and Isel, but was rejected by her. From then on, he seemed to become a different person, and eventually became a villain. He seems gentle, but all his actions have been calculated. I should observe carefully to avoid getting involved with him. Suddenly, Prince Jeremy also saw Flame. He acted friendly, waving his hand in greeting, and flashing a bright smile. Flame also waved back, thinking to herself, but he's really handsome. Now I understand why he has so many people flame-attering him, but I have to admit, his clique is full of the most famous people in school. With that thought, the girl turned away, determined to gather these people. Because, from now on, this world will be her reality. She has to prepare for the future. But this action seemed to have caught the prince's attention. He chuckled to himself. Is that Flame? At this very moment, the teacher's voice rang out. Attention, everyone. We will begin basic training before starting today's lesson. I need to know your abilities to teach you properly. I will be the one teaching you directly. If you don't like it, don't say it. You all know that we professors have the authority to deduct or add to your scores. So you must remember that you will be expelled if you don't meet the required score. And now I will explain the training session. We will practice with a dungeon. I will use real-life dungeon scenarios as well as traps and monsters to test all of you. You will get 4 points if you defeat a level 1 monster, 8 points for defeating a level 2 monster, 220 points for getting this point wand. The top 5 students will receive a small reward and shopping privileges. Students with no points will have points deducted. If you are afraid of failure or going alone, you can form groups, but remember this well. The points will be divided equally among the group members. If you can eliminate a student, you will get their points. With that, the teacher vanished, only his voice echoing, "That's all, good luck to you all." Immediately after, the ground shook violently, and the students screamed in panic. What is this? What's happening? The ground is moving. Suddenly, the ground split open, and a giant tree slowly emerged. Flame couldn't help but be astonished, her mouth agape. A giant tree appeared, and it seemed everything around was changing. The Flame lead guessed this was the Jack and the Beanstalk math. The scenery became lush and dense, with trees. The students began to choose their own paths. Some preferred to go alone, while others chose to go in groups. In the distance, the female lead's lone figure walked away. Holding the magic wand in her hand, she thought to herself, well then, I'm ready to join this game. Suddenly, a voice from behind, Flame. Turning around, she saw her red-haired friend, who continued, Are you going to practice alone? Flame replied, Oh, Jackie. She thought to herself, although teaming up in dungeon raids has many advantages, going alone is still better if you want to get more points. With that thought, she coldly said, I'm sorry, but this time I want to test my own strength, so I'm going alone. The red-haired girl, upon hearing this, sneered, Yeah, I know you'll have to share the points with your teammates, so that's the only way. Flame replied, Yes, that's right. But in her mind, she was wondering, am I overthinking this, or is she trying to pick a fight with me? Well, forget it. Flame said goodbye and left. Let's go together next time. She didn't say anything more, and just turned and walked away. Watching her retreating figure, Flame felt a little uncomfortable. Am I hallucinating? Why do I have a feeling she's imitating me? Well, back to the main point. Maybe it'll be different later. An hour after the dungeon opened in a certain corner, a faint green light flickered. It seemed Flame had just gone through a battle, and she was quite tired at this moment. So tiring. When will this training session ever end? Suddenly, she sensed something unusual. Immediately after, a giant vine rushed towards Flame. Quick as lightning, she raised her magic wand to block. From the wand, a stream of azure power shot out, directly attacking the vine. A moment later, the vine was defeated and gradually shrank. At this moment, she looked around and thought to herself, not only monsters, but even plants can attack truly Stella. Even training cannot be underestimated. I've only gotten 18 points so far, which isn't too bad, but this gap can be closed with just 1 point stick. I have to keep moving. And so, the girl ventured deeper into the dungeon. Suddenly, she was so surprised her eyes widened. In the distance, a blurry figure, but the dazzling sunlight made it impossible for her to see clearly. She was bewildered. Is it a monster? No, it's a human. But why would a student be able to hide at this level? Well, whatever. I'm using natural camouflage to hide anyway. With Flame's special abilities of control, destructive defense, and healing, it seems ambushing the opponent now is not a bad choice. And so, the girl quietly and cautiously approached the shadow. As she got closer, she realized it was Isel. So he's going alone? I remember the other students wanted to team up with Isel, right? Did he reject all of them? How strange. I can't understand what he's thinking anymore. But what surprised her even more was the point bar in his hand. Suddenly, a reckless thought popped into her head, and this is the perfect opportunity to test him. At this moment, Isel was still clueless, just walking forward. Meanwhile, Flame was using her magic wand to create an orange sphere of light. She believed that at this distance of about 15 meters, he wouldn't be able to defend himself. Immediately after, a strange magic circle appeared, and her whole body radiated an intense orange power. She looked straight at Isel and shouted, "Light bullet!" With that, a bolt of lightning shot straight forward. Just as it was about to hit Isel, he finally realized someone was ambushing him. He immediately used his teleportation magic to move to another location. On a beautiful day, with golden sunshine like honey and fresh, pleasant air, a young man was sipping a warm cup of tea, his eyes glued to the computer screen as if drawn by a magnet. He was browsing a game forum, where new topics popped up like mushrooms after rain, promising dramatic plot twists. As soon as he clicked on a post, comments from people jumped into his view. Trash game with a stupid dragon. It suddenly appeared out of nowhere and blew away all my game data. What the fuck, Black Dragon? It said my character died and I can't log in anymore. What the hell is going on? My character was suddenly deleted. Reading this, our young man was a bit confused. The final boss in a dating sim is that powerful? I thought the game would have a romantic, happy ending if the two main characters fell in love. Scrolling down further, another post attracted the attention of a large number of gamers. Everyone, this boss can't be defeated. This trashy black dragon has a passive magic resistance of up to 99%, has no cooldown, and always gives me a hard time with its magic absorption skill while simultaneously shooting out some kind of magic. How do I kill it? It must be a game bug. The main character suddenly realized that this was a post from a top idol in the gaming community. Curiously, he put down his teacup, his eyes shining. The final boss, huh? That's interesting. At this moment, he rested his chin on his hand, carefully reading the analysis of another player on the forum. Strange. A monster immune to magic in a world full of magic. That's ridiculous. Is it really a game bug? People are complaining that their characters are suddenly disappearing without a trace. Well, it seems to be it. Just then, an SOS notification appeared on the screen. Black Dragon. The 13th dark moon has appeared. The main character couldn't contain his curiosity. Click to read the game's plot again. In a mythical world, there exists a fanatical cult called the Black Demons. Their goal is to invade other worlds, also known as Persona Gates, to become the final boss of the universe. When the goal is completed, the Black Dragon will debut. And so, 90% of the continent has been swallowed by the Persona Gate. Reading this, the main character was dumbfounded